a little bit of transparency can cause some changes really quickly. Programs that have been around for a very long time, all of a sudden are not around. And the United States doesn't have the luxury. I really don't believe that the United States has the luxury of saying, well, it's not our problem. Even though I'm a libertarian at heart, and I agree with Ron Paul, and I'm not a warmonger, say that the temporary visas are kind and compassionate. It's like they are until they're not. As soon as they're used for human trafficking and fentanyl trafficking, and this is the part that's so frustrating. Is I really value people who are willing to buck the system. I'm kind of a nonconformist myself, so I see the value in that.
Welcome out to God and Country. I'm Uriah Kennedy. Ingrid Bettridge, my co-host, is down in Cancun, Mexico on vacation this week. So she's not going to be here with us, but we have one of our greatest guests. It's Phil Lyman coming all the way up here from Blanding. Later tonight, we've got a great event going on in Morgan County. So you guys are not going to be able to see that in time. But last week we announced it, so hopefully we get a lot of people showing up today. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We're trying to get past the whole YouTube suppression problem, so make sure you help get us out there. Look down below for all our merchandise or t-shirts, and help support the channel. We're going to have a great conversation today, so make sure you watch the full podcast, even if you're watching 20, 30 minutes at a time. This is a long format, so 20, 30 minutes a day, whatever it is. Please watch the whole podcast, and then, again, like, subscribe, and share. Phil, how's it going today?
It's good. Nice drive up.
6-hour drive coming up from Blanding, Utah. Mm-hmm. It's got to be gorgeous down there, though.
I mean, Utah's a gorgeous place. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're on the right side of
all the way through it. I agree.
You're on the right side of the state. I mean, you've got the arches, you got Canyonlands.
We could use a little bit more green. You guys are nice and green up here. But yeah, coming through, Canyonlands and Moab.
So, as you grew up down there, how often would you go to the big 5 national parks down there?
Never.
No.
There's other places to go besides the national park. I always say if you want to see people, you go to the national parks. But it is funny, I've got all my favorite spots, but people come to visit and we take them out, we show them all around, and then they stop by Arches on their way home, and that's what they rave about. It's like, oh, Arches was so amazing, and it is. So.
Oh, I've been down. I took my kids down to Arches, and we drove through Valleys of Gauze and then Monument Valley and then went over to Zion's. I mean, it's a gorgeous area down there.
Yeah, Monument Valley is a favorite spot. And then that Muley Point overlook and stuff around there, out by where, Bears Ears National Monument is now. And then Lake Powell was, we kind of lived at Lake Powell during the summer.
Oh, I love Lake Powell. Well, I did love Lake Powell. Right now, it's a problem. It's a massive problem down there. I don't know what they're going to do to solve that problem, because the 4-state alliance, whatever they have, they're not coming to an accord on that, and they just keep taking the same amount of water every single year. And it's
lake levels are set by the Secretary of the Interior, and whether it's Flaming Gorge or Lake Powell, and we only have so much water. It's still a river, but Utah doesn't produce water; it just flows through there. If they want to keep the lake level high, that's a function of water in minus water out. They could set the lake levels at
Lake Mead is looking even worse.
It is.
It's pretty bad.
Water is the issue.
That is the issue. I mean, we get plenty of snow up here, so we get plenty of water. But this last winter was just atrocious for Utah. It was bad. I think it was one of the worst winters yet.
Yeah. Well, and last year wasn't good either. So you get a few years in a row. Yeah, the Colorado River is way over allocated. So.
You got a great campaign going up against Celeste Maloy. You got a couple of debates coming up. One with Jason Chaffetz even moderating. kind of announce when those are and when people can attend those great debates coming up.
KUER is doing one on June 1st. That's the first one that's coming up, I think. June 1st, and then it'll be broadcast again on June 2nd, prime time. And then on the 16th, we've got one in Washington County, and that's the one that Jason Chaffetz is going to moderate.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is that going up on TV somewhere? Is one of the locals picking that up?
The Washington County one, I'm sure it'll be out on, Facebook Live and stuff.
Jason Chaffetz, somebody's going to pick it up, right?
You think he would draw a TV station? Probably, if we... Right now, I think it's just set to be...
Just local. Attendees local. Only.
And I'm sure it'll be streamed.
Oh yeah, streamed.
Probably with the Washington County. It's the Washington County Republican Women are one of the sponsors, and so I'm sure they'll be.
I'm sure you just have some news stations down there at least getting some snippets out.
I think so.
Reporting it on the 10 o'clock news or something like that.
They're doing a great job of promoting it, which is really refreshing when someone else kind of steps in and recognizes the value of a debate. I love the idea of debates, and the more the better. And so I'm really grateful to Washington County.
Well, I have to kind of say I'm kind of glad you didn't get in as Republican Party chair with Rob Axson, because this is a better office. I would much rather prefer you in Washington.
I appreciate that, and our whole mission was transparency, shining a light into the dark corners, and these opportunities just keep presenting themselves. And the state party chair was one of those that it kind of just begged for. And Rob's a friend of mine. There's people
Rob's
think
a great guy. I talk to him all the time.
People think there's animosity. Where there's no animosity. And I told him, I said, we need to fight. We need to fight the establishment. He said, that's not who I am, Phil. I'm not going to fight the establishment. It's like, well, I feel like that's what should happen. And so, no offense, I'm going to run. And there was no offense. But he did pull out all the stops: Trump endorsement, Mike Lee endorsement, all that stuff.
So, well, Celeste has got it too. I mean, if you're the incumbent, you're going to get the blanket check endorsement from Trump just because his concern is keeping the majority in Congress and the House. He doesn't really care who's in there; just he wants a Republican body in there.
Right. And if you've been towing the line,
you're going to get the automatic endorsement.
Yeah,
So.
I will say Celeste's endorsement was for CD2 in her old district where she was unopposed. It was long before this district was created. So it still is a Trump endorsement. If I had it, I'd be proud of it, and Celeste is proud of it. So
It would be proud of
right?
Trump endorsement. I mean, this last election where he did, there was a whole bunch of congressional races throughout Michigan, Minnesota, and he swept them all but one. And everybody he endorsed.
It is powerful. Yeah, I'm a huge Trump supporter and a Trump fan. I think I'm more aligned with Trump probably than Celeste is, but yeah, not to take anything away from that Trump endorsement by any stretch. And it is interesting in Utah to see how that's going to play.
Well, there's so many people here in Utah that are so anti-Trump for so long. My parents were one of them, and I've obviously converted them since then.
You did? Okay.
I've way converted them since then, but there's a bunch that particularly the old generation that grew up with Brokaw and 60 Minutes and everything else, and they just kind of get stuck in how they grew up. I mean, that's just what we did. I sat down and watched TV with my dad, and we watched 60 Minutes, and we watched the nightly news, and that's just kind of how they grew up. There's some nostalgia there with it for my parents, and they just don't see that things are changing dramatically.
It has changed. Yeah, I remember my dad always saying, we respect the office. Regardless of who's in it, we respect the office. We don't talk bad about the president. And America's changed in that regard.
Yeah, people hide behind social media now. Social media can be good, but it can be very, very antagonistic at times too. I'm sure you've seen a lot of that as you campaign and the attacks on both sides coming at you. So let's talk about some of the main subjects going on right now, and we'll just kind of move right through the big ones. So here in Utah, one of the big discussions is federal lands. Federal lands always seems to be a big topic, particularly throughout the entire western United States. I mean, if you were to look at a map, and I would encourage everybody who has not to go out and look at a map of how much of western United States is owned by the federal government, and then you look at the Pacific Coast or anything, I don't know, Great Plains East, and there's like very, very little that the federal government owns. Why do you think the federal government gets away with still owning so much land and not just turning it over to the states?
Well, it is an interesting, dilemma, because the Constitution in there says the federal government can have land inside the states up to 10 square miles for forts, dockyards, arsenals, and other things. And then some other provisions there. But so the idea that the federal government can just retain indefinitely all the land in the state of Utah is a problem constitutionally. But from a jurisdiction standpoint, we were given statehood, and that's been my big push, is that the state has jurisdiction that we're not willing to assert. And that happened at statehood. When I got in the legislature, one of the legislators came and says, are you with us on the transfer of federal land? And I said, oh, that happened 1896. Remember statehood? That's what that square thing on the map that we call Utah, that's what that means. We have jurisdiction. And I would argue that we have a lot more jurisdiction than we're willing to assert. The federal government is willing to step in and tell us what to do with all that land, but the state should be more willing to step into their jurisdictional role
and force the subject.
And historically they did. Some really great stories. Some of the Norm Bangerter, telling the feds to pound sand and kicking the EPA out. Putting them back on a. It's like that's what a governor should do. That's what a state legislature should do. The problem that I see is when you get some of the, big money interests, the lobbyists working with the federal government, then working with the state, and then working with the county commissioners. And next thing you know, it's like, oh, we didn't need anybody outside looking into this. We got it all greased all the way from the, president of the Senate to the county commissioners to the federal agencies that are in charge of it. And it just happens without any real process. And that's the problem.
Well, I'm all for like national forests, national parks, but I'm not a supporter of BLM. I would really like to just kick the Bureau of Land Management out and just say, hey, this is state property. Let's maintain the forest. Let's maintain the parks. If you have some kind of a national monument like the Dakotas have, the Mount Rushmore or something like that, then great. If you got military bases or if you got the test range out there west of the lake, great. You can maintain those, but give everything else back to the states. I mean, why would they continue to hold that? Why aren't we pushing it?
Well, and that gets back to that jurisdictional question. And when people would say, well, if you give the land to the states, how in the world can they manage that? They don't have the resources. And they say, oh, we have these really nifty little things called counties. That's what they were designed to do. And who's gonna manage the land in Morgan County better than the people in Morgan County who have been here for generations, know what it's about, they know where the water's at, they know what the resources are. It's not an abstract thing. I was thinking about that on the way up this morning. You get these people, that come back from the agencies in Washington, D.C., in my situation, come down there, it's like, oh, we've studied the Bears Ears. We've studied all of these things. We know everything about this county. It's like, you didn't grow up here. You don't know where Uncle Fred shot that big elk. You don't know. It's like, it's different. It's like this means something to the people that have grown up on it. The land is not, you make decisions about land, you're making decisions about people. And you can't separate those two. And people that come in thinking that they're land experts without understanding the people that live there, it creates some real resentment, some real problems. No matter where you do it in the world, that you start drawing lines on a map for other people, and it creates some real.
Well, I'm afraid that we get a lot of out-of-state lobbyists and environmentalists that just think they can rule the entire country. It doesn't matter if they live up in Seattle or in some no-name place in San Francisco. They can come over here and say, no, Utah, you can't give up those lands. Those are protected lands. We don't want anybody living on it. We don't even want anybody even driving on it. And then they sit nice in their homes. They've never visited it. They don't care. All they see is what's on TV or what's on news, that someone's trying to take control of this land, and then for some reason everybody listens to them. They threaten a court action. All of a sudden everybody just drops and runs.
under the most generous circumstances, you could say they don't know what they're doing, but the problem is they do know what they're doing, and they're lying to the people that they're doing it to. They've got they're way ahead of us. These people that are planning our resources and our land and our water, they've got their PhD in manipulation and fooling people. We come into it thinking, oh, hey, this isn't right. I'm going to go talk to somebody. We're going to get this straightened out. It's like, no, the schemers are always 10 steps or 100 steps ahead of the people of goodwill who are watching this happen to them. And they think that they're dealing with environmentalists who love the environment. What they don't realize is that those environmentalists are funded by Hans-Georg Weiss of, Switzerland, and Chinese money is coming in, Russian money, Arab money. All these big organizations have major funding behind them. The Tides Foundation is a huge funder of these environmentalist groups. The Conservation Lands Foundation, gets tons of money from the Tides Foundation, which is George Soros, and then they come out and they try to shut down oil wells and coal plants, and then they lobby and they get bills passed in Utah, with the help of the governor saying we're going to go along with the 2020 agenda or the Paris Climate Accord to shut down our coal-fired power plants, things like this. That it's really nefarious. And
well, I see that a lot of them are more anti-people than they are pro-environment. And that's just the way they come across, where they want to control people more than they want to help the environment. And that's when their regulations, really what that boils down to is.
I agree with you.
Look, Microsoft, Bill Gates, George Soros, I think they're very, very anti-people, and they want to control populations. They want to control where people live. I think a lot of that plays into that more than people realize. And people try to call that conspiracy theory, but I think that's pretty legitimate.
Yeah, well, I think it's human nature, because any human being that's born on this planet is born with a desire to be their own person, have some autonomy. And if I want to control everything, then the more autonomous that person wants to be, the more of a problem they are for my plans. And that's where Utah runs it, into some of the problems, because you still have people in Utah who believe that, that they are actually a person with the rights that come inherently from God and being born a person. You see, I always say, God bless Texas, because they'll stand up. They'll stand up for themselves in Texas, and Utah can take an example. And I'm talking more on the policy side. I know Texas has plenty of problems, but they're kind of known for saying, well, if the federal government's going to challenge us on defending our borders, we're just going to go and do it
ourselves
in spite of the federal government. And I love that, because not because it's chaos, but because it reminds the federal government that they're not in charge of us. We're not subjects.
No, or each individual states, and they tend to forget that big subject right there.
They do.
And try to control us even more. The next big problem we have here in the state is immigration. We had a border was open for way too long. Estimates are that somewhere near 20 million people came across the border through the Biden administration alone, not counting that prior to that there was probably already 20 million people here that were illegal. A lot of that is affecting our state. You had an interview with Nick Shirley during the Biden administration, so it's been a while, and where, frankly, the what was going on in the state was a little more sanctuary style. Obviously, we're not an official sanctuary state, but some of the policies were leaning that direction. Trevor Lee was trying to pass legislation here this last session to eliminate any incentives whatsoever going to illegal immigrants, including driver's licenses, food stamps. It didn't matter what it was. If you're illegal, he was trying to eliminate that. And that got watered down and didn't get passed the way it should have passed. Trump is having incredible problems trying to strengthen the ICE initiatives and what they're doing. And you got, obviously, the big fights are in Chicago and Seattle, what they're trying to do, the big fights up in Minneapolis. But in the end, what it boils down to is Democrats want voters. That's really what it boils down to. They want control. They want socialism. They want to bring these people in. They want to skew the census. They want to get these people voting. And people fought me for months on the fact that illegals were voting, they were getting IDs, and now some of that information is coming out, so where they're getting proven wrong, but they're still fighting us on that. That Biden was issuing Social Security numbers within 2 weeks of them crossing the border. Social Security number grants them a driver's license. Utah had a massive problem just handing out driver's licenses to illegals. And all you need to vote is a driver's license and proof of address. So you could take any utility bill and your driver's license and go down and register to vote.
You see what's going on in California with Spencer Pratt?
Oh, yeah. I love what's going on with President Spencer Pratt.
And people are saying, oh, they'll require voter ID in California. Let's go to California and vote for Spencer. So you got the whole nation like...
I was like, let's do it. Let's get some bus loads of people.
I'm sure it's still illegal, but there's something about that. It's like, well, if you're going to just say anybody can vote anywhere, then that cuts both ways. No better way to get them to change their policies.
Well, what we do is we fill up a whole bunch of buses and we go out there with pride flags and go register to vote. We don't have to say anything. We just carry the pride flag in, right? I'm registering to vote. They'd register you without question.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even ask you anything like that because you had the pride flag on.
So they'll have 130% voter turnout. It'll be great.
It'd be great if we all vote the other direction.
It'd be looking like Utah at that point.
We just cue the whole thing.
So I was looking up, don't mean to look at my phone, but I was trying to, the Sao Paulo Forum, I don't know how long it's been formed, but the Sao Paulo Forum has put forth, a lot of candidates in the United States for Congress and stuff. And it's the South Americans saying, we believe that America should be ours. We don't feel like we're trespassing especially in Texas and California and Arizona. That's our territory. We want it back. They're gonna take it over through, immigration,
Yep.
for lack of a better word. And they've teamed up with the Democratic Socialists of America, and so again, we look at immigration of like kind of the pragmatic things that you're talking about. It's like, oh well, it's hard on our schools, it's hard on this, or it changes our voting. But you have to take a step back and say, well, this is not happening in a vacuum. This is a concerted effort to change America, fundamentally change America. And when you take a step back and look at what it is that you're actually contending with, it's the basic premise of America. And these groups, they come in and they're the ones that say, we need brown people in office. We need a brown revolution. They're the ones that are focused on skin color, yet they constantly
call us the racist.
They constantly call us the racist, yeah. And they'll say, it's the white-skinned, blue-eyed people that are destroying,
destroying
the world.
America. Yeah, because
and they're going to take it back. So then if you can at least understand who your adversary is, maybe you can figure out a way to contend. And at least the way to deal with that is not to keep your head in the sand and say, well, I've got a big heart and open arms and so.
That's I like that you brought that point up, the whole big heart thing, because that's what we get accused of like all the time. Well, that's not Christian.
And Utah has have big hearts.
God way of doing things. Why are you being so mean to these people?
Right.
And we made this point with Trevor Lee too, and he was on a few other people. And the point we're trying to make is, you are free to donate whatever you want to illegal immigrants. The church is free to donate whatever they want to them. That's their prerogative. That's your freedom. If you want to make sure kids are not, quote unquote, starving, or you want to help them survive while they're here, while the government is doing their job, go for it. That is complete your prerogative. I would never take that from you. And in fact, I think it's a good Christian thing for you to do. Where you draw the line is forced charity through taxation, redistribution of wealth. It is not the government's purview to do that.
Right.
Plain and simple.
Right.
And for you to be reaching into my pocket and say, no, we all, I don't care what your frame of mind is, what your decision, we're all going to donate. I don't donate to this cause. That's where we draw the line, because that's usurping authority. All that is a socialistic mentality. It's redistribution of wealth, and it's forced charity.
Well, and from a policy standpoint, you can say, well, I don't agree with that. It doesn't change the fact that now your community is being, occupied, invaded by people who are serious about the invasion, serious about implementing that from a political standpoint. And yeah, not all those people are on the up and up. The Sao Paulo Forum, largely funded by the cartels, and documented that's how they perpetuate their agenda. So if you're gonna be preaching, the gospel of immigration and open borders, you have to understand that you're kind of preaching the communist, socialist rhetoric.
That's just
not what we're about. I mean, that has bad consequences at some point.
so. We did a podcast. Oh, this is maybe 6 months ago, and we found this video quote. And I want to get, since you're talking about it, I want to get your expressions on what you think of this individual.
We don't agree with the term illegal. We're undocumented. We've been here for thousands of years before you guys showed up, screwed up everything. We're anti-capitalist. We think socialism does work, real socialism.
Is there a country we can look to kind of model the socialism idea?
The only model would be Soviet Union the first 4 years.
That right there says it all.
So what do you think of that one?
Well, that's I think it's interesting when you've got people saying, well, we were here first. And then you hear that quite a bit. So it's like, okay, well, where did you come from? If you're Spanish, didn't you come in, the conquistadors and wipe out the Aztecs, and it's like, are we going to give this back to the Aztecs? And did the Aztecs wipe out the indigenous tribes there? So it's like, it's a
How far back do you want to go?
So yeah, Jesse does it. It's the right question. It's like, well, we won that conflict, and you signed the deal. So that's when
we bought it from you first.
That's when LA transferred over. But that's what you've got going on is people saying, I mean, literally.
I think socialism is better. I think I think the Soviet Union.
That's a good example.
Is a great example. What?
If you have people who would love to see the whole society destroyed, then that's good to know. It's good to know. Okay, well, I know where you're coming from. That's where I'm at with the environmentalists. It's like when they come in and it's like we want people out of here. It's the same. Subversion that's happening. It's like they're not saying we want to help build up this country and make it better. It's like, no, we want to tear it down. We want to destroy all of you. Whatever. Capitalists.
Well, I've always said from the beginning is the push from the left is to completely destroy America. Because the only way they could rebuild it under a more socialistic type of a rule where they're dominating is they have to break down society completely the way it is right now, which is why they promote the BLM violence. That's why they promote the Muslim violence. They promote all this other stuff, all these riots, the immigration riots, anti-ICE riots, the No Kings riots. They promote all that. Why? Because they want to completely break down society, make you feel like you're completely unsafe, because only then will you elect and give them more power. And the more power we give them, the more they can take, the more control they can take, until it's too late and your freedom's gone, democracy's gone, even though we're not a democracy, but everybody gets the point. But people really don't think that they're trying to push that far. Oh, they're not trying to push that far. They're just trying to get equal rights, and they're trying to promote a DEI narrative. That's all they're trying to do. And they don't see the subversiveness and the deeper plan that most of these people have to, they want to get rid of the freedoms as we know it.
I would agree that a lot of the environmentalists would fall under the category of useful idiots. They think that they're giving money to save the planet or something else. But if you look at the forces that are driving those environmentalist groups, they are not organic. They are not funded by their donors. They're funded by foreign entities that are trying to shut down our industries in the United States.
And we're talking immigration. It's not like we're anti-Latin America. It's not like we're anti-Mexican or anti any of these countries. We believe in law and order. when you come and you legally immigrate, there's a process you go through. My wife swore in as a citizen a year ago, 11 months ago. So I'll be a year in a month. So she'll be a citizen for a full year now. And we went through an extensive legal process to get her legal immigration and help her to become a citizen. And she learned a lot about the country. She learned about our founding fathers. She learned about freedoms ours. She learned about World War I and II and Vietnam and Iraq wars. I mean, she had to study all these things. And she learned the meaning of freedom. She learned the blood, the prices that were paid for that. She learned why we have these freedoms, what the difference is between capitalism, socialism, communism. There's a massive learning process where they learn appreciation for what they have here. When you just walk across the border and all of a sudden you're handed everything, you're handed a $3,000 a month allowance, you're put up into hotels, your food's paid for you. You have this entitlement mentality. You have this you owe me mentality. There's no appreciation for any of it. It's take, 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 take. You owe me. I deserve this. You're the big country. You can afford it, right? What's your problem? You guys are just being greedy. There's a completely different mentality. And when they grow up in a different country than what we grew up in, and all they've ever known was dictatorships, socialistic mentalities, all this, and when they come here, they start spurring comments like this because that's all they know. They don't understand anything. It's not like they're purposely trying to do it, but it's literally all they know. And when you purposely trying to get those people voting, you know what the result's going to be. And the Democrats know exactly what that result is going to be, which is why they want it, because they want that more government dependency. Depend on us. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. We know more than you. We know better. We know how to run things. And they take over. Last week we had the Davis County Commissioners on. We had Fletcher, Susan Lee, and John Crofts on. Mm-hmm. And I made that specific point that if you're not God-fearing, if you don't believe in a higher power, the state is your power. The state is your objective. The state is the authority. And it's no longer we the people. Because we the people get our authority from God. And when the state becomes your dominant thing, then the state's what provides the freedom. And we the people lose it.
I mean, you have to say, well, what is America? And America is not a white supremacist founded group. It has all of the diversity that you don't find in other countries. But what is it that the people have, that's uniquely American? And it's a love of freedom and autonomy and a place where you come and it's a whole different experiment where the government works for the people instead of the other way around. So you go to Mexico, you don't see a whole bunch of diversity in Mexico. You go to China, you don't see diversity in China. You come to America and you see diversity. And the thing that should, bring us together is that people want to be, part of the American program, the republicanism, representative form of government, free market, small government, freedom, all of those things. And they have for years and years. There's so many amazing, people who have come from other countries that make the United States a much better place. But if you come here with a hate for America,
or no intention of assimilating, right? You're just bringing whatever you have with you because America owes the rest of the world.
Yeah. So I was reading about Cuba's initial, Fidel Castro was the first one to recognize that you could weaponize immigration by sending psychopaths and drug dealers to America under the auspice of, immigration. I think the quote there, I can't remember which president it was, that says we have big hearts and open arms, and Castro said we'll fill your arms with shit, and and it's like, here you go, you have a big heart, well, here you go.
And then everybody yells and screams at Trump for saying that they're sending us the rapists, the killers, and they're like, what are you talking about? These are normal people coming across.
Yeah, which if the truth is that that's what they're doing, then it'd be good to know that. This was back, at probably in the 50s, 60s when Fidel Castro was in power and was,
a lot of people are not believing Trump that they're literally emptying out the prisons down there and sending them up here.
right. Well,
And so amongst all the good people, the decent people are still coming across illegally.
yeah.
There's a lot of dangerous people
And you have
coming
to be
across.
really careful because next thing, as soon as you point out the truth, there's like, oh, what a horrible person, just like they did to Trump. It's like, well, he's not saying that, Latinos are horrible people. He's saying horrible people are coming under the guise of immigration. You got China that also has, a really orchestrated and stated objective of basically destabilizing America and taking over our economy. They're sending scientists and people here to infiltrate and take our secrets, take over our positions of leadership, but they're doing it for China's interests. It's like, we have an interest. Will you go to America and help promote the Chinese interests? So yeah, that's where your loyalties to the country become an issue. And like this guy that you showed it's like, well, he's not pledging any loyalty to America. His loyalties are anti-American, and America
That's why
has.
I never understood all those protests, the No Kings protests, the No Eyes protests. They're up there raising foreign flags. I'm like, if you really want the American dream, if you really want to be here and participate,
Yeah.
you'd be out there protesting. I respect your right to protest, but every single one of you would have American flag up here. We want the freedoms that you guys have. We understand what you guys have. We want to assimilate. We want to be here. Help us be here. Even though I came across the border illegally, I felt desperate. I wanted to take care of my family. Help me be here, right? You'd think that would be their mantra. And if that was their mantra, they'd probably have a lot more hearts voting for him, right? But when you're out there
Right.
down with Trump, down with ICE, we want to take this back, this is Mexican land, or this is some other foreign land, and you're not raising the American flag, nobody has any compassion for you.
Well, and I've said before, you can play the game or you cannot play the game, but you sure as heck better understand there is a game that's being played. And if you don't understand that, then you're going to make really poor policy decisions because you're operating on a basis of something that is abstract and it's not real. You have to get into the reality of this, and this is where, I admire a person like President Trump, who, against all of the criticism and all of the hate that is thrown at him, he still takes his aircraft carrier down to Cuba, as he did, I guess, today. It's like he's sending a message. I don't know what's going to happen in Cuba, but the message is, we don't like what you're doing. Now, Americans might look at that and say, oh, that's really hostile, aggressive. But if Trump knows the program, then he's doing what he thinks is the correct thing to do to protect America's interests.
Well, not only that, but Trump just wants the suffering to stop. I mean, when he talked about the Ukraine war, he's like, I just want people to stop dying. Just stop. I mean, I'm not for Russia. I'm not for Ukraine. I want the war to stop. I want people to stop dying.
Right.
I mean, that was his mantra.
Same thing in Iran. Yeah.
Same thing in Iran. I just want people to stop dying. They were out there slaughtering their own people. They have that famous wrestler that they're trying to get out of there, and they killed him anyway, right? They look at, well, after Trump took over Venezuela, Cuba's not getting their oil anymore. Cars aren't moving down anymore. Nick Shirley just spent a day over there. If anybody saw that video is crazy, of how he went in there, was going to spend 3 days there, ended up getting out 24 hours later because they started following him all over the place. There were 3-star generals waiting for him down in the lobby. He was afraid he was going to get picked up and never get out of there again. And they just got out. They weren't. It's a great video.
Yeah.
But the one thing he says is like, and the people are saying down there is socialism, communism is the worst. Every single person he interviews that were willing to speak out says this is the worst thing that's ever happened. Trump, please come and take over. You have people in Iran, you have people in Cuba begging Trump to come over and get rid of the regimes, begging them. Right. I mean, I saw a video the other day where there's this whole group of Iranian women just bawling, screaming, bawling, please come and take this out because they're just killing us. Now that Venezuela has taken over, Venezuela has gone from horrifically bad to even horrifically more worse because there's just no money. People are starving down there. There's really no food. Nothing's moving. The vehicles are stopped. He said the gas stations are all getting boarded up.
Yeah, same in Cuba. Yeah.
Yes, and that's what I'm talking about is Cuba.
Yeah.
I was referring to Cuba. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
So Trump is going down there right now, saying, look, because of Venezuela, yeah, your society is decimated. I'm doing that on purpose because your government's bad. But now he's feeling for what's happening to the people and says, well, we've got to do something. We can't just leave it like this because the government down there they'll just leave it like that. They won't care about the people. And it says, we're fine. They won't care. And they don't care if the people die or not.
Right.
But Trump does. He can't have that on his conscience. And some people ridicule him for ICE. They ridicule him for all these things. So as you get into office, what can you do as a legislator to help support all this? And it's a problem.
It is interesting with the 435 members of the House of Representatives. That's a lot of people. It's a lot of opinions. You can get drowned out. I think what you have to, number one, is understand what's going on, because there's a lot of congressmen who I don't think do, and then there's a lot of congressmen, at least a handful of congressmen back there who hate America. So they're playing a game.
Ilhan Omar, first off.
Yeah.
Squad.
So you've got some of those, and they're members of the Sao Paulo Forum and Democratic Socialists of America, whatever. They really dislike this country. They would like to see it really disrupted. So number one, understand it. Number two, be able to articulate it and persuade good people. And that's what I find. I like the Freedom Caucus because it gives a place for some of those people who clearly, put the Constitution and ahead of the party. And if they're out of step with the party, then they work through that. Some do a good job of it. Some don't do such a good job of it, but they clearly value the Constitution and be able to go back and articulate that. Say, hey, this is how we can maybe get some influence in the Republican side of the ledger on the House floor, and make some good bills better or some bad bills less bad. And you can fix things incrementally. You can affect things incrementally in Congress.
And it's going to be a very slow increment because we've pointed this out several times on the podcast. Is you'll have a lot of good Republicans in Congress that their home districts are red. They're red, so it's easy for them to be very, very conservative, very pro-Trump, very pro-ICE. Let's kick these people out. Let's have strong foreign policy. And they're not afraid of going back to their home districts and getting ridiculed, right? But then there's other people throughout this country that are barely holding on to their position by their fingernails because back home it's very, very purple. And they have to play very middle of the road. And even though they're Republican, voting with most Republicans, they're on the board not because they necessarily want to be, but because that's what their districts are. Now, that might completely change with this whole thing that happened in Virginia where they can't gerrymander the districts anymore and dilute the Republican vote anymore, which is going to be awesome to see what happens there.
It feels very manipulated.
It feels very manipulated. But right now, we have to work with a lot of other legislatures, a lot of other states, and do it in a way where we can keep the majority. Because if Trump loses the majority, then we're completely out of power this midterm, this coming to the end of this year, right?
Right.
And that means a lot of us who would really like to see ultra-conservative policies are going to have to start learning how to take some base hits, some two base hits instead of home runs all the time, because we have to, sadly, cater to a lot of very, very purple districts. And that's where there's going to have to be some negotiating, right? And people are going to say, well, good, we're going to stay moderate, we're going to stay in the middle, right? And a lot of people applaud that, even though it's not the best thing for our country. So as a legislature, you're going to have to go to the Senate and there's 435 other people out there, and you're going to have all the backing of a very, very, very red state where you're not going to have any worries about going home and getting retribution, but you're going to have to sit there and work with people that don't have that type of backing and figure out how to get good policies put in place, but also help good people stay in office so we can keep a majority in Washington. So how do you do that?
Well, again, I think you have to understand. You have to understand what the opposition is up to. Not let them dictate the narrative, but be able to go back and articulate the position. And you'd mentioned that things don't change quickly, but we saw with Doge, for example, a little bit of transparency can cause some changes really quickly. Programs that have been around for a very long time all of a sudden are not around. Nick Shirley, out doing what he's done those things. A little bit of transparency, a little bit of sunlight can change things dramatically as soon as people see what's going on. And that's my campaign's been transparency first. And it's for that reason. You can't fix a problem if you don't know that it exists. And so I'd love to see things like the Epstein files released, not because I care one bit about the Epstein files, but because
Transparency.
it's transparency. It's like, well, we don't hide these things. We open them up. And I think that it changes the culture from one of we keep secrets to one of no, we don't. That's not what this is about. It's not the job of Congress to keep all the secrets. Well,
I pointed this out too last week in the commissioner podcast we did last week. If you do not have transparency, if you do not have that completely open, it's no longer we the people.
Right.
We the people are sovereign. We govern ourselves. If you're not transparent, then all of a sudden you have switched from we the people to government is now more important. We rule. We tell you what to do. We know better. We'll do it for you. And that is, that's the slope. That's the slope. When you are not transparent, it is no longer we the people, plain and simple.
Yeah. If you and I are in charge and our business model is no one can ever know what we're actually doing, then are those people free? Are they, they're not we the people. It's we the government. And that's we see that happen all the time. It's like when Spencer Cox is talking about the government, it's like, well, we need to do this and we need to do this. It's like, who's we? What are you talking about? So it's like, give us the information. Let the
we the people.
Yeah. we have a part in this.
That elitism gets into good people, and people go to Washington, they go to the state, and they start out with great communities, and they start out saying the right things and have the right goals in mind, and then all of a sudden, they get to big city, and something happens. I was talking to Carrie Ann Lisby about the same subject, and I was saying, Carrie Ann, when you get to office, what keeps you? Oh, I gave this. Let me give the example first. The example I gave her, and I'll ask you the same question. Let's take a hometown girl. She lives in somewhere in Tennessee, right? And she's a great singer. All of a sudden, she's getting more and more popular. She goes to Nashville, or she goes to Hollywood, and all of a sudden, the lights start happening. That she breaks out. And you see a lot of people where they curve and go Hollywood, they go Nashville, and they lose those hometown values. It just, the lights, the glimmer, the popularity, the money, the parties, the drinking, whatever it is, it just it inundates you.
It's the rule, not the exception.
Sensory overload, where all of a sudden you got this mass amounts of attention, people opening doors for you, people paying food, and there's just money's flying everywhere. Politicians have the same problem. They always have the same problem, where they have really good hometown values. They start off good and strong, and then they hit Washington, and it's the parties, it's the invitations, it's all the lobbyists all of a sudden start throwing money around, and it's Hollywood. It's that inundating sensory overload glamour that hits. And we see that all the time with politicians. They just lose their way because they lose track of hometown, and everything becomes Washington, D.C.
Uh-huh.
You grew up in small town Blanding. How do you keep centered on that, something like that? Because it will get inundatingly big as you get to Washington.
Well, and this is one of the things that's been strange to me about Utah is we seem to be infatuated with like celebrity status. We like our celebrities. We like our Mitt Romneys. We like high profile politicians. But if you look at the lifestyle and the, and the pride and the greed and the lust and the everything, the 7 deadly sins that come with, that type of a personality. You would want someone who is not that type of a personality, someone that is.
Well, a lot of people don't even have that personality going into it, and then they get skewed.
Yeah. So
It's very drawing. It's very pulling.
that's why little character, when you find something out, a small little character thing about somebody, and we probably overdo it on that regard too, but you find out something about, that this person, cheated on their wife, or you lied about, some business deal or whatever. Those little things, people register that. It's like, hey, can I trust that individual, in with the power? And
Well, the scary thing is about those
also get corrupted,
tiny
so.
flaws is they don't go public, but some lobbyist figures it out, some special interest figures it out, and then
And they have it.
it's blackmail. They have you.
I don't know how much that happens, but I know it happens, and I don't know who's above reproach, but hopefully you get people that are not severely compromised before they even get back.
Well, I think that's totally what happened with Biden. I mean, I think he was more compromised than compromised because he was not doing anything up there on his own accord. I think his whole Hunter laptop and all that kind of stuff, I think he was being led around by the nostrils. Even though he wasn't all there anyway, he was still getting led around.
No,
I think
you see
the same
that.
thing happened with Hillary's. I think people had a lot of dirt on her and then was very, very easily manipulated.
Yeah, I guess if we're governed by pirates, then we need to figure out, like, is this person susceptible to that, or have they just like adopted it and become a really good pirate themselves? And that's what you see. Also, you see people who become really, really skilled at the rhetoric and the manipulation and the deception, and it is an industry, and people are like that their PhD in it. So.
Well, they always say that Washington, D.C. is the most wealthiest city in the country that produces no goods or services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is wild. Yeah. Washington, D.C. is a very interesting town.
Well, going back to immigration, so as a legislator, how do you keep from getting influenced by the lobby, special interest, the people that are trying to pull your heartstrings? Because there's going to be a lot of them out there trying to pull your heartstrings, try to get you to vote certain ways, and then you've got to stay America first. Let's support ICE. Let's support the people.
I think, again, the Constitution it's more than a document. It's more than a historical document. It is a business plan, and it works really well. You get the separation of powers where the executive branch doesn't bleed over into the legislative and the judicial, and the states have their balance of power between the feds and the states, and the counties are respected and families are respected and all those things. I mean, that's the whole Constitution, as it says in the preamble, was to, secure the blessings of liberty, not to secure the blessings of prosperity, but liberties. Like, we want to be free. So that's a fairly shallow answer to a really deep question, like to how do you do that? But I think
Well, how does Phil Lyman promise the voters out there that doesn't matter what glamour I run into, I'm staying grounded. I'm staying with the people.
You come back to the Constitution. You take an oath to defend the Constitution, and do you believe it when you take that oath? And the answer with me is I believe it. And it's not I believe that it's a valuable historical document. I believe it's a really good business plan. I think the republicanism really, really works. The James Madison version of the multiplicity of factions and what makes the republic stronger. It's not unity. It's multiplicity of different factions, all with a voice, all valued for what they can bring. It's really an amazing document. So for me, I think even I admire liberals who are committed to the Constitution. If they're committed to the Constitution, it's like, okay, we're going to disagree on most everything, but we will agree on the rules of engagement, because we both come back to the Constitution as our document. And there are some liberals who defend the Constitution.
I would hope so, because it's going to be becoming less and less, because you can't be, it's hard to be liberal, socialistic, and still support the Constitution, because the Constitution is everything anti-socialism, anti-communism. It's really hard.
And this is where you get the uniparty concept of whether it's Democrats or Republicans, there are people who are subverting the American Constitution, and that we can't do that. We can't allow the GOP to go down that path. And they're not inclined to go down that path, but there are some in the party who are inclined to go down that path.
Well, one of the biggest things that Trump is fighting right now is obviously trying to keep both the House and the Senate this fall. It's massive, because they're purposely trying to lame duck him for the last 2 years and make sure that he cannot get any more policies through and nothing. And he can't do everything through executive order. That's just not possible. So he's going to have to get Congress on his side somehow. So we're seeing a lot of gerrymandering that we've experienced over the last number of years. Virginia just exploded. Now they're looking at all these other states. And the funny thing is Fox News came out and started publishing the district maps of almost every state out there. And I was like, really? Because some of the maps are just crazy skiwampas where they're just all over the place. That. It's not even square or has any shape.
Right.
It's just all over the place. They were purposely gerrymandering neighborhoods.
Yeah.
That might completely come back to bite the Democrats in the butt here very, very soon.
Well, I hope they get it. I hope they get something lined out before this midterm election. Otherwise, we are going to lose it, because they've already structured it all. But you get Virginia figured out. You pick up 14 Republican seats or whatever the numbers work out to, and you do that across the country. And
well, we had the reason I'm making that point is because I want to bring it home to Utah here. So we had the same thing just happen. Prop 4 failed, and now we got a donut hole in the middle of our state that is going to be. And there's of all things, a Somali running after all the fraud.
Won the convention hands down.
Won the convention hands down after all the fraud going across the country. We're going to have possibly a Somali legislator in the state of Utah. How do you work with that going back east?
I mean, here and again, it's a person who wants to disrupt and burn down and tear apart the country, and you've got a district in Utah now that's saying, that's what we want. It is the Black Lives Matter. It is it's the burn it to the ground mentality, and so I don't think he will. I don't think he will win. I suspect we'll end up with a Democrat from that district, but I don't think it'll be.
Don't think it'll be him.
Yeah, I don't think so, but we'll see. But you see the same thing happening. It's like this video that you showed. It's like, well, can you show me a place where it has really worked? And it's like, well, Soviet Union.
So,
but that's what you've got going on with Mom Donnie in New York right now. It's like he gets in and immediately it's like, oh, we gotta drain all the funds. We gotta give all this money away. And it's like, oh well, surprise, surprise. That's what you elected. You shouldn't work. Yeah.
Well, hopefully you'll go up to Washington with Mike Kennedy and with Carrie Ann Lisby. We'll see how Carrie Ann's race runs, how your race runs. Mike Kennedy's for sure going to be getting in there. And then downtown Salt Lake is kind of a flip of a coin at this point.
Yeah.
But I think if you get in and Carrie Ann gets in and Mike Kennedy gets in, we'll have a very, very, very strong team coming from Utah, which will be phenomenal to have that strong of a team for once.
Yeah, it would be amazing. CD3 is I think someone said it was Trump plus 40 last 2 years ago in the election. So CD3 it's not just conservative. It's Trump conservative. It's MAGA conservative, and I've said Trump represents the aspirational side of America. It's like we could be better. We could do things well. It's not that people are like, oh, I love Donald Trump. I'd do anything for Donald Trump. It's like, what does he represent that the Democrats don't represent? And he does have a plan. It's like he's bold and he's going to do something.
He's
right?
Smarter than most people realize.
He's super smart. And
I mean, he put as good as getting rid of Maduro and taking over Venezuela, and as good as what he's doing in Iran has been, what both of those things have done to China has brought China to the table. I mean, he did Venezuela, then he did Iran, and then just this last week he goes to China, and look how talkable and how sociable China is all of a sudden
Yeah,
become.
if the U.S. military was a laughing stock a few years ago, it's not a laughing
not.
stock now.
China was incredibly nice to him, all the business owners that went over there. He had Apple there, and Elon Musk was there, and BlackRock was there, and all these other companies were there, and trying to expand American interests in China. And obviously, China was significantly more negotiating than I think they would have been if Venezuela hadn't happened, if Iran hadn't happened.
Right.
Because they're very, very desperate right now. So he's doing a lot with a single stone, and it's working incredibly well for us. The funny thing is, though, is the United States, we really don't get any oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. We have a lot of homegrown oil. We're a mass export of oil now. We're importing an incredible amount of really, really thick, rich oil from Venezuela now. There's other places we can get oil from. Why is the Strait of Hormuz affecting the gas pumps as much as it is? Do you think it's just straight up people just unsure about the market and are just spiking their prices? Oil companies are just using and taking advantage of it? What about the Strait of Hormuz do you think is really killing the gas pump?
I might be off on my numbers, but I think 60% of the world's oil moves through the Strait of Hormuz. So globally, that's pretty important.
Globally, but it shouldn't be that important here at home because we have.
I think when you look at
he's drill baby drill,
Yeah.
and that's racked up. Fracking is up. Venezuela, we're getting oil from there. Why?
it's really, to me, it's really interesting on a global scale because people are getting informed. Even in Iran, people are learning things that they wouldn't have learned, 30 years ago. The information is finding its way into the minds of people around the world, which is putting pressure on some of the boundaries. And I nowhere is that more evident than in the Middle East. So, stepping away from the kind of the political and just going to the geopolitical, the land mass and the resources, from an economic standpoint, I think there is going to be a reconfiguration of the Middle East, something that's more functional for the people who are there, for the Iranians who are begging for some reprieve from their tyrant, overlords, and from Israel, who you got 9 million Israelis that are in the middle of 200 million, people who are chanting, death to America and wipe Israel off the face of the planet. So those things become existential, and that leads to some serious conflict. People when it's survival, when it says existential, and it's not just economic, then the people who do have an economic interest have a I guess an interest to go and see, can we resolve some of these issues? The president of Iran referred to Israel as a one bomb problem. We can fix that with one bomb. It's like, and then if there's and we have the bomb and we have the enriched uranium, we're going to get this. It all of a sudden it elevates that to something that you can't sit back and say, well, it's not our business. And the United States doesn't have the luxury. I really don't believe that the United States has the luxury of saying, well, it's not our problem. Even though I'm a libertarian at heart, and I agree with Ron Paul, and I'm not a warmonger. It's like you can't let.
Well, it's the old
threats.
Spider-Man thing, right? Original Spider-Man, with greater power becomes greater responsibility, right?
Yeah. It does. It's true.
It's legit. We do not want to be the world police. We shouldn't be the world police, but we also can't allow genocide. And that's what's happening with the Iranian Ayatollah to their own people. That's what they'd all do to Israel. I mean, the Holocaust, World War II would be nothing compared to what would happen if we just pulled back and said, hey, not our problem anymore. We already know that's what's happening in Ukraine. I mean, estimates are over 1 million deaths already from both sides. I mean, it's crazy how many people are dying. That's why he's saying, just stop the killing. But we can't sit back and do nothing. And that's a lot of people, that's what they want us to do.
Yeah, if you look at the War Powers Resolution, the 1973 resolution, I think it was kind of an acknowledgement that that you can't always go to Congress because of their dysfunction and everything else that's going on in Congress. You can't always go to Congress and work this through a long process. So we gave some power to the president to take military action, and then 60 days to terminate or or get additional congressional approval. And I'm grateful that we have some restraints on it, because you don't want that kind of power
No.
unrestrained. So here we are in this, testing out. It's like, and I'd written a statement. We need, at this point, I think we need to demonstrate our power, our economic power, our military power, but also our power to follow the rules that we laid out and at least reconfigure what it is we're doing in the Middle East. You can't just camp out there and say that it's not hostilities towards Iran when it is. So, and I think we took out 50 of their top leaders. We really decimated their military, their navy, and decimated their industrial base, for better or for worse. And I would like to see us going now with more diplomacy and negotiation to say, well, let's change, let's help Iran put in a new regime. We've done it before. Yeah, again, for better or for worse. I'm not saying that the United States is the end all be all, know it all, but we could go in now with what we've done and help to build Iran in a better direction. So,
Well, the one thing people do not want is they do not want boots on the ground. They do not want another Iraq or Afghanistan. I completely agree with that.
we don't want our kids.
We don't want anybody
dying
over there
there.
right now.
Yeah.
But we've got them on the run, and we can't back off now, because there does need to be regime change over there. But we need to be able to fulfill that in a way where we're not the ones doing it, right? We got to weaken the government enough where the people or the neighbors or somebody over there has the ability to take over. I've interviewed several Israelis on the podcast, a lot of Jewish people. We've done it several videos. And if you go back and watch those videos, you'll see that they have a very, very keen understanding what's going on there. When we were talking about Hezbollah and we were talking about Hamas and all that way back when all that was happening, the one thing they would all tell me is look, most people from the West do not understand their ideology. The Islamic extremists, they do not negotiate. They do not know how to negotiate. You start negotiating with them, and they see that as a weakness. The second you start negotiating with them, they say it's a weakness. It's time for us to attack.
Right.
They don't understand win-win. They don't understand moderation. It does not dawn on them ahead. They have no clue what that means. We're going to either be annihilated and we're going to go down screaming and shooting, or we're going to win, right? It's either you show such extreme force where we are forced to back down, we are forced to respect you, or it's death to everything. And that's all they understand. And people, and you've seen it from Clinton till now, people really try to handle the Middle East just like we'd handle one of our neighbors. We negotiate back and forth, have some diplomacy. That's
As if they were similarly indoctrinated, which they're not.
Get to politics. It's just it does not exist over there, and people really don't understand. No, that does not.
Right.
You cannot negotiate with them. It's absolute force to get forcing your back down, or it's not. That's their mentality. That's their creed. That's their religion. That's just what they think. And so with what Trump has done with Iran, to where they are back on their heels, if we were to pull out now, that would so embolden them beyond means, because they would create that story that, look, we won the great America. We've defeated the great Satan. We've pushed them back. That would be the mantra on Al Jazeera and every news station over there. Every publication would be, look what the Ayatollah just did. We just defeated them. We outlasted them. And of course, they look at history. They look at Vietnam. They look at all these others where we were outlasted. That's basically what it was. And we lost the Vietnam War straight up. We lost that because they outlasted us.
Yeah.
And we pulled out. That was not an American win, as much as our history books say otherwise. It wasn't.
We were just there. We were just camped out for
and
a generation.
the whole Afghanistan pullout, they outlasted us. They're still in power. Look, the very people we wanted to take out of power, guess what? They're in power. And so they're learning from our politicians how to defeat America. And how do you defeat America is you just outlast America.
Right.
That's it. And so it's we want to adhere to the rule of law, like you said. It's 60 days, and you got to go to Congress. But at the same time, we can't let them get any breathing room, because the second you give them even a little bit of breathing room, we lose everything we've obtained over there.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think the blockade is smart in that way, where we're not trying to. It's a rough line, right? Because we're trying not to give them any breathing room, but at the same time.
And Trump says that. He says the blockade is really effective. It's really working. It's like, okay, the 60-day clock ran. So our rule of law says it's time to get congressional approval for continued hostilities. It's not a declaration of war, but it's like this is what we do now. And I think it's really important. And but I look at what we accomplished in such a short order.
Amazing.
Man, going into Venezuela and capturing Maduro and his wife and pulling him, that was like so admirable. Whether you agree or not, it's like
that's a boss move.
It's
right?
a boss move. And Trump said, "I'm going to do the same thing in Iran." And I think he could say, "I did the same thing in Iran. I went in and I took out 50 of their top, people, including the supreme leader." And it's like that's not a small thing. So by our own constitution, by our own War Powers Act, by our own laws, we need to pivot to something that's not hostilities.
What do we pivot to, though? That's the problem. Because unlike Venezuela, where you could go in there, snatch Maduro, and get out, Iran's completely different.
It is so different, and it's huge.
We could go in there and grab the current Ayatollah leader, and then the next guy would just pop in, the next guy, and they're 100 deep. Even though we've taken out 50 of them, there's still another 100 deep, and so it's.
So two things that come to mind. One is if you're in the House of Representatives, if you are a congressman, hopefully you're getting some good information, some good intelligence, which you and I are speculating and we don't really have. But hopefully you've got some good intelligence to help make those decisions. And then I recognize the dysfunction of Congress. I recognize the presence of people there who hate America and would undermine all of that operation. All of those things are a problem. So adhering to our rules might help us to reinforce the notion that maybe we do need to have honest, fair elections, so that we're not dealing with a completely dysfunctional and totally crippled Congress. Those things, if we work around them, if we circumvent those things, then they're allowed to perpetuate. And I think that's an issue that needs to be addressed. And then the other part of this is this, as opposed to like Venezuela, the Middle East it is such a global, crossroads, and there's I don't know how much the United States is driving the whole operation there. Probably a lot. But I think there are other forces, global forces that are at work. Certainly Israel, again, for better or for worse, but certainly Israel is pulling some levers. But I think other places in the world are pulling levers, and I do think the net effect. I think 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're going to see a Middle East that, with some reconfiguration, much to the disdain of probably mainly Iran and. But something's going to happen that puts that into a more functional setup. We can't.
I think it's bringing the rest of the Middle East together. I mean, Saudi Arabia is really coming together.
I'm watching it.
Their pro-U.S. support now is getting bigger and bigger. The worse the more retaliatory Iran gets, and so it's kind of pulling a lot of other countries our direction.
It is so interesting, and I know you talk a lot of politics, but so then the dynamic of, well, what does this do in America to the balance of power in Congress? And that's also something that has to be factored into this. If we lose the majority.
Well, I think that's why I'm talking about this, because I think two things are going to affect what happens in November. It's going to be the gas price at the oil pump. Everybody feels that, which Straight of Hormuz is obviously affecting that. And
yes,
that's affecting your food prices and everything else, and that's what people are caring about right now. The economy is always number one when it comes to the ballot box. Always number one. And then number two is going to be ICE and immigration, right? It's although fraud's now taking a big toll on that, and what J.D. Vance is doing. We'll discuss that here in a few minutes, but those are going to be either a massive referendum against Trump because of Iran and because of that, or it's not. I mean,
I think if people knew the stakes and knew the players and could see what is happening, I think they would be more supportive of the actions that the United States has taken, which gets me back to we need to be straight. We need to be straight with the American people. They can handle it.
transparency.
Transparency.
Well, I absolutely love how Trump has done this, though. Because if it was Bush, if it was Clinton, if it was Biden, if it was anybody else,
Yes.
we would have had boots on the ground. We would have been in another forever war. It would have been crazy because they were itching to do that. The military complex is itching to have another piggy bank that funds them for another 10 years. They're all itching for that. And Trump has been the most reserved president we've ever had. In and out with Venezuela.
It's bold.
We bombed a few boats out in the ocean a little bit, some little speed boats, and that was it. We took Maduro and boom, it's over. Right? One guy got a bullet wound, and that was it. Iran, it was completely Air Force only. We gained control of the skies, and no boots on the ground. Our Navy was in the vicinity, but not anywhere dangerous. He did push for more. He hasn't asked for anything more. He says, look, I want Iran to take care of Iran. The people want freedom. They're all out there trying to get their own freedom. All we need to do is weaken the government enough so that they can take their own freedom back, right?
Yeah, and it is one of those things. You don't want to go 80% and then walk away when it's like we could have finished it. We could have finished this.
We don't want another Vietnam.
Yeah.
We don't want another North Korea.
When I say finish it, I don't know that it's militarily as much as it is now economically and
Economic. Yeah.
to go in and finish it. But again, kind of speculating because I'm just reading the news like anybody else and subject to all the propaganda that's out there trying to decipher it. But one thing I do know is that the War Powers resolution requires some engagement that seems like people are pushing back against that should just say, okay, we acknowledge that. Let's go address this.
While we are in control, he should probably engage and get that done.
Right? That's I'm thinking so too.
He should probably get all of that figured out long before, because we have no idea what's going to happen in November. I mean,
yeah. And within, there are people in Washington, D.C. who are there long before Trump and will be there long after Trump that are calling, a lot of these shots, we're just tourists. We pass through the elected officials. So you still have a deep state or a permanent, government in Washington, D.C.
and just like the Middle East, just like all these terrorist organizations, they know how to outlast America. They know how to outlast this administration and just go one administration to the next.
Yeah, wild times.
Well, I listen to a lot of Coquinda. Have you ever heard her?
I don't think so.
I
should have done my homework.
I'll turn you on to her, and she is an analysis is just spot on, and she's looking at the global economics of this and showing how what's happening in Iran is affecting Europe and England a lot more than we realize. How Trump went after Greenland, how Trump's gone after Venezuela, how Trump's pulled back from any UN support, how he's pulled back from any NATO support and forcing them to put in more money, how he's forcing tariffs on all these countries. It has dramatically weakened not only the European Union, but Britain in and of itself. And Britain is no longer the imperial control that they have. Even the small country that they had massive imperial control over the Middle East, over Europe, over all these other things.
Oh, yeah.
And they're not conservative. The leadership over there is not conservative. Even though they're our greatest ally, they're also one of our greatest underminers.
And they've been showing massive problems for 20 years now.
China was secretly meeting with, we're not really secretly meeting, but meeting with Canada. China's been meeting with all these other countries. But the geopolitics of what Iran's doing, what Trump is doing, has changed the entire world to where the United States is sitting handedly top dog on the planet. Not only military, but financially, the dollar's back. The dollar was almost gone during Biden. I mean, look at what Russia and China almost did, switching the oil from the dollar to the yen. It's crazy what geopolitics is doing. And yet he's still getting a lot of pushback on tariffs and saying tariffs is destroying our economy, is putting us down. And I'm an importer. That's what I did for years. That's how I guarded all my money. I imported thousands of containers in from China of toys and
Really?
swimming pools. And
Wow.
I still own a line of paddleboards and kayaks I have coming in. And so medical equipment, I mean, we did.
How interesting.
I imported probably 250 plus containers worth of PPE during COVID and shipped it all over the country. So I know that market incredibly well. And so when he just started discussing tariffs, he says, well, it's just another tax on the people because people like me will just pass it on to the public. And I'm like, yeah, that's true for the first few months, but we know it's not going to last.
Right.
And so we go back to our suppliers. We start beating them up, saying, I'm not going to eat all this. I can't keep raising my prices over here because it's not going to work. People are going to revolt. And so we start pushing back. And so it takes a few months for us importers to start pushing back on China, but then they start feeling it. So the American feels it at first, but then eventually they start feeling it too. But there's a big narrative out there that tariffs are the worst thing on the planet, is destroying our economy. That's hitting the legislature too, as to what he can tariff. It's hitting the courts. Every single tariff he's ever done, it has hit the courtroom, and judges and pulled back on a lot he's been able to do. Kind of go through what's your opinions on tariffs and yes, no.
Yeah, I mean, from a libertarian economic standpoint, I don't like tariffs. I don't know that anybody likes tariffs, but these are war times. These are wartime. We're under attack by China and other countries that have been abusing the United States for years. And again, it's one of those things. Is like a boss move. Trump comes in and lays on some tariffs that, like, it sends a really strong message that stop screwing around with the United States and with the people that live here. And yeah, the prices go up, and that's economics 101. And demand goes down as your costs go up. It has some real pain to it, but it has pain to our adversaries who have been just freeloading off of the United States for so long. And so I'm 100%. Again, I admire what Trump did there, and I hope it's not a long-term. I hope we're not switching our economy to being funded by tariffs, but great move.
Well, the funny thing is, that's how this country started, though.
True.
We started with tariffing everybody because we did not have an income tax when we first started.
I would trade the income tax for tariffs if we could do that.
Heartbeat. If we could eliminate. I mean, that's what we should do. I mean, income tax didn't come in till Woodrow Wilson or
1913.
Yeah, somewhere in there. World War I is what brought that on.
Yeah, a couple of periods of taxation prior to that, but yeah, then we came in with a full-on income tax.
Well, yeah, we didn't have that before that. That's just been the last 110 years or so, which is crazy.
Yeah.
But then they keep raising that too.
Came at the same time the Federal Reserve came. If you can imagine that.
Imagine that. What?
Yeah. Yeah. No, we've been fleeced for 115 years. So.
But yet there's several states that can survive without it. I mean, Nevada doesn't have it. Florida's getting rid of it.
It's smart. Getting rid of state income tax is smart. People wonder, well, how do you pay the bills? What do you do? For me, I like severance tax. The reason I like severance tax, it's the tax on minerals, is then it changes you from hating extraction to saying, hey, well, we got to have extraction. And so now you start doing some things. But Utah's got so much wealth and so much ability to pay its bills without an income tax.
We should go that direction.
We should. And you'd see a massive, appeal, I guess, of commerce that would be running through Utah that we're not getting now. So I'm always more interested in the pocketbook of the families and the people than I am the pocketbook of the state, because we'll figure out a way to pay the taxes. Income tax has the earmark for education, so that's one of those that you get a lot of pushback when you start getting rid of income tax. And once
so does property taxes.
Yeah, and you get a lot of pushback on property taxes too, but yeah, I love the idea of getting rid of income tax. I think that's of all the taxes you could eliminate, income tax in Utah would pay big dividends.
I would agree with you there. So one these tariff votes come up on the floor, which way you swinging there?
I'll be voting in favor of those. Yeah.
Great. One of the other big topics that's going on there in the government right now is our relationships with our neighbors, both Canada to the north as well as Mexico to the south. Mexico's got a massive cartel problem. She is bought and paid for by the cartels, and there's nothing you do about it. Trump's in Cuba right now trying to figure out that's going. Canada's been issuing a lot of fighting words, but their economy is plummeting. Trump's comment about why don't you become the 51st state is awesome, because he just throws stuff out like that just to see what the reaction is, just to troll people, and then obviously always pulls it back to where he wants, but he throws the line so far out there that when he pulls back, everybody thinks the line is now reasonable, right? If he would have just thrown it out to where he wanted to, they would have exploded too. He's just, and everybody knows he's doing that. It's the funniest thing to me is, that's what he's doing. He's going to throw it out there and then pull it back. So that's.
And it is funny because people are like, "Oh, that's ridiculous." Then after a while, it's like, yeah, it's not a bad idea.
And then he pulls back and gets exactly what he wants. And then he does it again. I'm like, but they bite in on it every single time. The news media bites in on it. The left bites in on it. Just hook, line, and sinker. If I was them, I would just ignore it and say, I'm not worried about it. He's not going to do it anyway. He's just going to pull it back. Why give him the attention? The attention is getting him everything he wants.
Damn.
Everything he wants.
It works.
So what's your opinions on our relationships with our neighbors, and what should we be doing with our neighbor to the north and our neighbor to the south?
I wouldn't say that I'm a protectionist, but for me, the American economy, I don't want to see us, join our economies with Canada.
While you're addressing that, also the fentanyl whole thing too. I want to put that.
Yeah. So the idea that, Canada and United States could become like one economy, and I guess on a global scale, things are happening that are creating an economy kind of outside the parameters of national economies, whether we're talking hard assets, Bitcoin, things like that, which I think is really interesting. And I don't want to see the federal government regulating people's ability to transact. But yeah, I'm not a huge fan of the concept of creating what did they call? There's the plan that basically combined the economies of Mexico, Canada, and the United States into.
Yeah, they're talking about that.
Yeah, we've heard that. So I think America needs to just be a powerhouse economy, our own. And I like Canada. I think they're good neighbors. And I think they've got a lot going for them in Canada that we could learn from. For example, you can actually do mineral extraction in Canada that you can't do in the United States, because in Canada they don't pay the environmentalists to sue them. It's like, fix a couple of things like that. I'd love to see that in the United States. But yeah, I don't think Canada wants to be part of America.
Well, now that Trump has completely shut down the southern border, it's very, very difficult for fentanyl and drugs to come across the border. But I've spoken to people that I know, friends I know up in Canada, where you've got the Sinaloa cartel, you've got Tren de Agua, and they're setting up camp in Vancouver, in Edmonton, and the northern border is now becoming what the southern border was. And I think a lot of people really don't realize how bad the fentanyl traffic is coming in from the north. People think, oh, there's not a problem up there. It's Canada, right?
Yeah.
No. It is. And so when Trump's being mean to our northern border, trying to shut that border down too, he's getting a lot of flack for it. And he specifically addresses the fentanyl. When he went to China right now, he specifically addressed the fentanyl. China, you've got to stop selling fentanyl to these cartels. And there's a big fight in Congress right now because a lot of people have that mindset that Canada's not the problem, the northern border is not the problem. One, the opposite's the reality, because the southern border is pretty shut down.
From a again, America first perspective, Canada is one of those countries that is not a. They don't hate America. They're not a threat to America. They're dependent on us for so much. We're talking, I guess, a couple of things here. One is just
drugs.
just the drug. Yeah, the drug.
We're talking drugs.
The drug problem, and the truth of it is, there are a lot of people in America who are benefiting and profiting hugely from, to use Trump's term, hugely from the drug cartel, and they're in our own CIA, they're in our own intelligence side of things. So that comes back to Trump's ability to drain the swamp, which that's a long process, but I think he's doing it.
Well, he's been trying to drain the swamp ever since he got in office. I mean, he's still trying to shut down the Department of Education. Doge is trying to shut down stuff, and every single time he tries to shut down anything, it's court case after court case after court case. And obviously you're going to be in the House and not in the Senate, where you're going to be helping appoint judges, so that's not going to be in your purview. But we do have a very, very big problem with our judicial system, where they are trying to control and legislate from the bench.
And I guess I would say when we're talking about drugs and all of that, there's not a silver bullet that's going to fix that problem, but an understanding of what is driving it. Somebody asked me the other day, what do you see as the biggest threat from foreign powers? Is it China or is it Russia? And I said, well, I would say China, but what scares me more than any of those is Bill Gates and George Soros and our own big elite power families in the world and in America. They work together, and you get into the Tides Foundation and the support that they're giving to the cartels and receiving from the cartels and driving all this stuff. So we're dealing with kind of a symptom, and I don't know how you go and basically take out the Rothschilds and the the Bank of England and the old money and everything that's kind of.
I think he's doing that with the tariffs and what he's doing. I'll put you on to Coquinda.
Okay, please do.
If you haven't listened to Coquinda, listen to her.
Yeah, so there's a big issue there.
During his administration, just within the last year, he's labeled all the cartels as terrorist organizations. He hasn't done anything with that yet, but I'm sure if he keeps and wins the midterms here, I'm sure that's going to be one of the things that ends up happening. There's going to be another Iran. There's going to be another Venezuela. I mean, his vision's pointed to the cartels in Mexico. It's going to happen if we keep the House and the Senate. They got a big bullseye on their heads. What do you think should happen there?
Well, and I guess the converse is, what if we don't keep the House and the Senate? Then what? Then what
do we do with the cartels?
So many things, and I'm impatient, probably like most Americans. Like, I want him to do it sooner. I want him to do it now, while we have the majority in the House and the Senate. And I think that's a lot of the risk that we face in losing the majority. Is people are saying, well, you've got it. What are you doing with it? And I'll give Trump full credit for all the amazing things that he has done, but there are some things that we should be doing that we haven't been doing with the.
Well, voice your opinion. What would be your general opinion, without getting yourself into too much trouble, with the cartels? What should be done there? How far should the United States go to disrupt the cartels, dismantle them?
All right, if I go full conspiracy mode, then I would hit them at the heart, which would be to end the Fed, and we absolutely should get out of the Federal Reserve, because I do think that mechanism is funding a lot of the world conflict, the industrial war machine that we have. All of these things go back to some serious financial motivations to keep all of that commotion
moving.
Going. So I think you have to hit them at the heart, which is going after the Fed. But then, so if you can disincentivize that, then we're down to the pragmatic stuff of like, let's go down and shut down these. Let's
Should we put boots on the ground? That's been a bit of conversation out there. I know a lot of podcasts out there have discussed it.
Any action?
Should we put? Because Mexico's not going to give us permission.
Yeah,
she's not going to do it. She's bought and paid for.
Right. And any action will create a reaction.
Yes.
You have to say, okay, what is it that we're taking on, and are we prepared for this? And that's where I get back to
do we put the Air Force in and just take the skies? Do we put boots on the ground? What do we do with the cartels?
So if we go again, you get into the
weeds.
I don't know. Maybe we should turn off our cell phones here. You get into the CIA. You get into some of the I won't name names, but there's some what you call penetration agents inside the United States that have been driving really, really horrendous actions. And so we look at the cartels like, oh, that's the enemy, when the enemy is like standing right behind us. It's like you've got to address that. So, but if we're talking about use of force to end the cartel operations, I don't think it's boots on the ground. I think we've got other technology
I would agree with you
to take people out. But again, that whatever we do there is going to have an equal reaction, because the cartels are sophisticated now, and they have militaries. They probably have a big chunk of our military, and that's the part that makes me nervous. Is the corruption from within. I mean, it is the
my honest opinion is Trump's going to try to do something similar to what he did with Venezuela and Iran. He's not going to put boots on the ground, but whatever we do, we're still infringing upon their airspace, right? Whether we're sending in drones only and non-powered drones, whether we're sending in the Air Force, we're going to disrupt their airspace. And that's internationally, that might cause problems at the UN. It might cause problems across Europe when we just go in there and say, no, if you guys aren't going to take care of the cartels, we aren't. And I know Trump's demeanor well enough through everything else that there's no way he would shy away from doing that. I have no idea what he's going to do in Cuba, but I don't think he's going to shy away from doing that at all.
The who's in the White House makes a huge difference on the policy, and I trust Trump, and I pray that his intelligence people are not undermining him, and I get concerned on occasion that he's being sabotaged from within, and there's evidence that would indicate that could be happening. I'm sure he doesn't want people saying stuff like that, so I'm cautious about it, but. And I don't know if Congress can even wrap their hands around, when someone's a penetration agent, they're good at what they do, and you don't know that they're there until the damage has been done.
Yeah. So, just like with Venezuela, we all woke up that morning and he was already in the United States. Right?
Yeah. And I didn't know that was happening. You didn't know it was happening. You just go.
My phone started ping, 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 ping. I'm like, what's going on?
So.
And I woke up, nudged my wife. I'm like, we got Maduro, which is crazy because we did a podcast on this too, because my wife's from Colombia, but her brother's entire family, they actually live in Venezuela. My wife's best friend, literally her best friend, who was maid of honor, everything, her husband is Venezuelan. His ex and daughters and all that are still in Venezuela. We interviewed them, and we had to obscure their faces because they're still deathly afraid of the carbineros and what they call the colectivos down there. They're just going around shooting people, and it was horrible what they were telling us. So yeah, it's a whole new world down there.
Well, if you go back historically, the problem of marauding bandits, so people that go around and take your stuff, and rape your women and kill your cattle and whatever, burn your houses. I mean, and that's where government said, well, maybe we should figure out a way to protect ourselves from this.
Yeah.
And we're not too far removed from just that concept. And so back to America First, it's like, okay, well, if there's going to be cartels, they should understand that we don't play when it comes to what you're doing in America. Now, going down and saying, well, we're going to assimilate Mexico and all the way to Panama or something like that. I've heard things like that. There's probably some practicality to it, but again, it's un-American. It's like that's not what America does, and I think America has to stay true to our borders, tight borders.
Well, a lot of people think that worrying about the cartels is not America first, but this is very, very America first. I mean, just bring this home. So we just had the Republican convention, and we had Mike Smith in our booth. Mike Smith's the sheriff of Utah County. We spoke to Adkin. We spoke to Van Emmerich. We spoke to a lot of these. And both, Mike Smith is going to be here on the podcast here right after January 12th. And so is Adkin's going to be on here with us. And the one thing that Mike Smith told us is, he says, we actually caught an active Tren de Agua hitman in Utah County. He says he was a legitimate. He drove us around to the bodies. He says, no, he says it's bad. He says that he's the biggest thing that he fights in Utah County, in Happy Valley, Utah, what we all think, what he says is drug trafficking and sex trafficking in Happy Valley, Utah County. This is coming from your guys' sheriff down there. And I would imagine Salt Lake County is probably worse. Davis County is not immune from it. I'm sure Washington County and all these others are not immune from it either. Well, he says the main thing that we're fighting is we're the crossroads of the West. It's I-80 and I-15.
Yeah.
Right? It's the main thoroughfares for the entire United States going through this state. And so if you don't think that what Trump's going to do with cartels are not going to affect us, we have Tren de Agua hitman in Utah County that had literally drove the sheriff around to, he said it was over 15 different sites of bodies that he had stacked up in Utah County. It's just crazy to me. Crazy to me to think of that you had a hitman down there doing that. Well, and he also, to let you call it, he also put someone in jail, down the Utah County jail, that was, I think it was a Venezuelan kid. He was probably 16, 17 years old, had committed some crimes. And they interviewed him, so, well, what are you doing? And he did plead the fifth. He did respect his own Miranda rights, I guess, and he just started telling his story. And what Mike said, you guys can go back and look at this, he says, I owe the cartel $5,000 for getting me across the border. And he said, if I don't pay them, they're going to start coming after me, my family, anything else like that. And so he was literally prostituting himself. He was a John as a male and prostituting himself, and then he was committing crimes or doing whatever he needed to do to get money to the cartel. And he doesn't want to do any of that. I mean, who wants to prostitute themselves just to get money to the cartel? And if you think that what we're doing with deporting people, shutting that down the border is inhumane, is probably the most humane thing we've ever done,
right,
because of how bad the cartel is. And that's Utah County. You have a guy prostituting himself in Utah County amongst all these good Christian LDS people. There's a market in Utah County for male prostitution, for child sex trafficking. So don't think it's just a California thing or a New York thing. We have massive child sex trafficking, and it is controlled, operated by cartels.
Right. Right.
You don't think that's a problem?
So then you get, from a policy standpoint at the state level, of that ICE is bad. We're going to protest ICE. We're going to say that we want immigration. We're going to say that the temporary visas are kind and compassionate. It's like they are until they're not. As soon as they're used for human trafficking and fentanyl trafficking, and this is the part that's so frustrating is the normal person would say, well, if that's if the H-1B visas are being used to subvert our very way of life, then let's shut them down. And as soon as you say that, it's like the people that come out saying, what a horrible, awful person you are, what a racist you are, when you're saying, this is a problem. Guys, open your eyes. We have a serious problem here, and we can't let it continue and perpetuate. That's not being mean. That's not being, racist. That's saying we've got a problem and we've got to shut it down until we can get a handle on it. And then you get to, politically motivated people that come out and criticize that. And in the meantime, you get Utah that turns into literally a sanctuary state. By any other name, call it what you want, but it's a sanctuary state. Our policies have made us that. And it's made us a magnet for not just for non-citizens, but for non-citizens with criminal intent.
The sad thing here about Utah, I'm LDS. I'm staunch LDS, but
I am too.
Staunch LDS. the biggest thing that attracts illegals to the state of Utah is the church, because
The church has weighed in heavily on this.
weighs in heavily on it, and they have a massive area where people can go and get fed, right? And so it attracts a lot, just not illegals, but homeless people will actually travel. I actually picked up a hitchhiker from Vegas that was hitchhiking up here. They were out. It was a lone girl out in the middle of nowhere. I'm like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
I picked her up, and I was halfway between Vegas and the Utah border, the Arizona border, going up there, and just started asking her. I'm like, what are you doing out here? And she got into a car with a guy. She has no idea who I was, if I was good or bad, but she knew she didn't want to be out there. And I started asking her questions. What are you going up to Utah for? He goes, well, I'm going up to Welfare Square. I'm like, well, they feed us up there. That's all. And this was middle of January. I'm like, and she had just come from California. She was in Las Vegas. I'm like, do you have a coat? Do you have anything? I'm like, it's like 25, 30 degrees up there right now, right? It's warm down here in Vegas, but she goes, oh, I didn't know that. I didn't even think about that. And then I ended up dropping her off at Casablanca there in Mesquite, and she went back. She was going to go back. She just no clue. I'm like, I'll take you up there because that's where I'm going, but
You don't want to be there.
you don't want to be up there right now. But the whole point was, she was purposely going to Welfare Square. I mean, and if she was going, a lot of people. And again, I have nothing against the church or any individual supporting these people, because I think that's your right. I think you should do that. I think it's the Christian thing to do. I don't think it's the right for government to do it, but I think it's a Christian thing to do. The issue is that still attracts a lot of illegals to the state. So we do have a massive problem here that the government needs to step in and take care of. And,
I think
and people fight that because, well, if the church is supporting, why shouldn't we support it? If we're Christians, why shouldn't we support it? And it's really hard because it's such a touchy subject for people to separate government from charities and people.
Well, when we talk about the church, there's a lot of different aspects to the church, and we're not talking. Most of these things are not the brethren, coming out with a policy statement, but the church comes out with a policy statement. The church gets involved in elections. They come out, stumping for candidates and going after other candidates in their certainly in the Deseret News side of the church, in their media department, but in some of the other elements of the church that are very political and very manipulated and very infiltrated, as you would expect any organization with some authority and power to be. And so the church is not above, being influenced and pulled in a direction that they should not be pulled into. And when we talk about immigration, there's been some policy statements that have come out that I think you probably should go back and reconsider that. In the legislature, the lobbyists from the church would come up. They have lobbyists, and they call them the home teachers. But you could sit down with them and you could convince them, persuade them that, this policy, this law that we're trying to do, which initially the church is opposed to, now that we've explained it, they've changed their position. So there's an opportunity there for some education. And one of them, and that education from my standpoint, is to where you have great power, you have great responsibility. The church has a responsibility to step in and say, our big hearts and our generosity has created a problem that we need to now address. And it comes down to, we don't, if we truly love our neighbor as ourselves, then we are not going to subject them to dangers that they shouldn't be subjected to, and we should take care of our people.
I'm going to take this one step further.
Okay.
And I'm going to be very, very careful with how I phrase this. So I know Stuart Adams very, very well. And so, Stuart, if you're listening to this, you're a friend. There's not everything he's doing I support. I'm voting for Braden Hess. I'd rather have Braden Hess in there right now. I think it's time for a change. But I know a lot of other people that are very, very, very close to Stuart Adams as well. And sadly, the church has lobbyists that are not necessarily good lobbyists, that are very somehow they've become official church lobbyists, and they're fairly liberal. And I doubt the brethren know anything that they're doing or know everything that they're doing. I don't know what the relationship is. I don't know how much controls they have in place, but I know there's issues there. But I know for a fact that these lobbyists are openly pushing Stewart to promote illegal immigration. And Stewart has openly admitted it behind closed doors to me and to others that when the church lobbyists come knocking, that he just does whatever they say, because he just says, if they ask me to do it, I do it. And I've seen some of the stuff that they've asked him to do, and I've spoken with people that have spoken with the church lobbyists, and they're like, that's nuts. That's not conservative. That's not what we should be doing. But there's some politicians in place that just, well, it's the church, I'm just going to do it, right? So not to step on anybody's toes and not to defame Stewart. Again, I'm Braden Hess guy. We're going to be with Braden Hess today. There's certainly changes, but there's certain things happening that should not be happening, and that's complicating the whole immigration problem. It's complicating politics in our state because there are people within the church, outside of the church, within government that have specific agendas. And there's a lot of politicians that do not recognize an agenda when they see one and do not separate church doctrine or church charity or church Christianity, good work, what things we would build from the bad influence that some people are putting out there right now. And you're going to feel that too. I mean, when you get, Carrie Ann's felt it, Trevor Lee's felt it. I know a lot of when you were in Congress, I don't know if you were in the House. I don't know if you ever felt that any of that. But as you get into Washington and others, there's going to be a lot of pressures that are going to hit close to home. And there's going to be a lot of lobbyists that hit close to home. How do you handle that? How do you manage that?
Well, when we're talking about the church specifically, they do have lobbyists and they do have interests, and they're very good at looking out for those interests. And probably on a good majority of those, I would probably agree with the
Well, when it comes to
the merits.
Marriage between man and woman,
Yeah.
all for what the church did. Prop 8 in California, go for it.
Yeah, and they backed away from that to some extent, which so you're dealing with a global organization, and they'll tell you that right up front. We're a global organization, or we have to appeal to people all around the world, and I don't have to agree with the church to be a faithful member, and I don't speak evil of the leaders, but that doesn't preclude me from advocating for the interests of the state, interest of the country, and there are times when the church is on the other side of that debate, and if the prophet came in and said, well, I've looked at all this and I understand what you're saying, Phil, but this is the direction we're going because thus saith the Lord, I'd probably be like, okay, that's a trump card that is higher than me, but that's not what you get. You get discussion, you get policy discussion, you get education, you get information exchanged, and you get some change in church policy that I think can go in the right direction. And I guarantee you there are people pushing the church to implement policies and stuff that the church is not fully aware of, at least that the brethren are not all that involved in.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. And there's people in church leadership that are not necessarily conservative either. So
right.
And you just got to recognize that and not internalize it, not make it personal, not make it a strike that the church is untrue or anything else like that. It's people are people. You're dealing with human beings, and a lot of people just don't separate that out. And it's very, very hard to separate that out sometimes. And fault finding starts coming into play, and the blame game starts coming into play.
I mean, you've got the church has a serious legal arm, and those attorneys are attorneys that over in this section, they're in my world, they're total scumbags, Yet they are attorneys, and they're very good attorneys, and the church is very wise to have them employed on the issues that are important to the church. It doesn't make them a good person because they work for the church. They're just a really good attorney. So it doesn't mean I can't go and fight with the attorneys on one issue and not be able to go get my temple recommend when I'm done.
Yeah, honestly, right? Honestly.
So hopefully anyway, at least not yet.
For sure. When you get into office, the ballroom might just happen to be completed by then.
Yeah.
Just if you're lucky, right?
Do you think I'll get to go see the ballroom?
That's all I'm going to say is, what do you think? You think you're going to be able to get in there?
I would love to see it. I guess it's got like bunkers underneath and everything else.
Is that crazy? And despite all the lawsuits, it's still going forward. I think construction. I mean, Trump took people through a tour on it just the other day, right?
Well, and here again, you got Trump that thumbs his nose at all the critics and does what he wants, and it's like
I thought it had to stay there for a while, and I guess the stay. I didn't hear that the stay got lifted, but he said no, we're on schedule. It's still going. I'm like, okay, I guess he won something in the court because I knew they had to stay on it for a while.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it a few months ago when it was, and yeah, it looks pretty impressive.
Yeah,
be cool to go inside. Yeah,
you're gonna have to send us pictures if you get inside there. That's just gonna be a requirement for right now. If you get inside the ballroom,
you'll probably get in there before I will. So
you're saying, hey, Dad, I'm getting in there, but you're sending us pictures of what it looks like in there. Videotaping yourself inside the ballroom. That's gonna be cool.
No, it would be awesome. Again, another big audacious thing that you're just like, wow, didn't see that coming.
And they can't stop him because it's not publicly funded, right? It's just because he knew going into that if I try to use tax dollars, this is gonna hit the fan. And he stubs his nose out and says, no, I know how to get stuff done in spite of
and the people that it's spinning their heads off, who are just like, it makes you happy to see those people so upset.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Rand Paul a little bit, because you're going to be in there with him as well. He's notoriously voted against half the bills that have gone in lately. I know the reason why he's doing it, but I think it's a bad position because, again, I'm the guy that goes in that tries to take the base hit and not the home run. Get what you can and live to fight another day. Then the next session comes in. Well, we might be able to take it the next step further and a step further. We do that here in Utah as well. As Trevor Lee tried to get a couple bills passed and they got watered down, but he thinks the next year might get more of it passed. There's bills that we tried to get done years ago that barely got passed 3 years later. I mean, that happens all the time. But Ron Paul is really taking Rand Paul is really taking a hardline stance. And, I mean, he voted against the big, beautiful bill. He's voted against tariffs. He's voted against everything. The opening up the government, both times we were going to open up the government, he's voted against it. And he's usually just our, what's her name up in Alaska, and what's her name in Murkowski that we have to worry about. Again, you're going to be office with these people. What's your opinion of what's going on over there?
I'm such a huge fan of Ron Paul. And Rand, I admire Rand as well. He's a senator. But yeah, when you start to recognize that there's excuse the term, a pissing match going on, which sometimes there is, and it's like, okay, you gotta be careful when you put yourself in that position. And I'm not saying that that's what Rand. I think he's very principled. I think he's very valuable to have. I
love his staunchness on the budget.
If you get rid of the outliers on either side, then the whole body shifts, and I think Rand serves an important purpose there. But but yeah, this is a time when Republicans should not badmouth Republicans.
They should really stand together.
Other than in the primary election, then you can badmouth Republicans. But yeah, in practice, we really are a team. And I've always said, I'm not going to criticize my own quarterback of my team, even if I don't agree with him. He's like the quarterback. Now, if I found out that he was actually working for the other team, then I might criticize him. But until that happens, I think, I guess, long story short, I really value people who are willing to buck the system. I'm kind of a nonconformist myself, so I see the value in that, and I think our
Well, your
Constitution.
run against Cox was very nonconformist, and we all applauded it.
Yeah, it's like necessary. It's like, please, be a chaos agent, whatever it takes to make sure that we're having a discussion instead of going along down the primrose path. But
There's a point where you got to get along too.
yeah, and so
The reason I make that point is Democrats are notorious for holding the line, staying together. They never disseminate from each other. They're unanimous every single time. If they got to get in there, and the whip's got to get in there and whip them up, and then they all get in line. Case in point is during the State of the Union speech, they weren't standing up for nothing.
no way, no how.
They were standing
Not
up
one
for
of them.
nothing. And then there's one point there that one guy stood up, and Ingrid made this point where he was grabbed,
Oh, really?
pulled back down. And then the camera panned over like once, and there was some whispering going on. And then like 10 minutes later, he panned over, I guess, and then he was sandwiched between two guys because the seat next to him was empty. And then all of a sudden, two guys were sitting next to him. The one guy that pulled him down, and then another guy sat next to him. I guess they were keeping him in line. But Republicans are notorious for not voting as a bloc, not sticking together. I mean, we're pretty bad at that, and it really hurts us in the long run. And there's a lot of people like Rand that like bucking the system. There's a point where you buck the system. There's a point where you got to be the team player and take the base hit, or else nothing's going to get done. So
Right. I think from a House standpoint, and I've been in Mike Johnson's office. Not that he would know me, but I've been in his office a couple of times, and I'm impressed with him. I've been to a couple of meetings where he's at. You would hope that where there's potential conflict or disagreement, that you could go and sit down with somebody and have the discussion. And I don't know if Rand does that on the Senate side. I don't know if like Thomas Massey, I got the impression he was all kind of thumbing his nose a little bit, and you can do that. And I guess there's some respect for a person who's like total nonconformist, but at the same time, it's like, well, if you want to get something done, you kind of owe it to your colleagues and your people that are there earnestly hoping for something good to happen. You kind of owe it to them, I think, to at least go and have those discussions and try to explain yourself. And if a person feels, well, I like Eli Crane. I watch Eli pretty closely, and he votes against the party on a lot of things, but it's never, I don't ever get the impression that he's anything but loyal to the party, loyal to Trump, even if he's taking an amendment that goes against the party, like the Farm Bill, illegal immunity that he and Anna Paulina Luna sponsored. And I just like the way he did it. I like his demeanor and his respect for Trump, and his, he's not bashful to compliment Trump, and that's where it seemed like because of the conflicts that had happened between Thomas Massey, and I don't mean to use him as an example, but because of those conflicts, it seemed like he had pitted himself against
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, same thing. A couple of negative things, and then Trump, he comes out, he'll
Trump's Trump.
tap him on the shoulder, and he'll turn around and take you out. And so, but generates a lot of respect. And for me, I have genuine admiration, and I've liked Trump since I bought his book back in college in 1987, Art of the Deal, and genuinely, as I liked The Apprentice, I kind of like Trump. I like his audaciousness. I like the enemies that he has and the conflict that he gets. So it's not hard for me to go in and say I support Trump. But even on those things where we might have some disagreement, I would hope that I could articulate it in a way that was not unfriendly or indicating that I was not a complete committed to the team effort, because you can't do this alone.
No, and with 435 people, they need every member, particularly when the margin's so slim, right?
Yeah.
Or barely holding on to the conference.
Yeah.
And that can get swayed very,
You,
very
you,
easily.
you see some people who really get disgruntled, and maybe rightfully so. Maybe they've been really done wrong by Mike Johnson or the party, and they're just like, maybe, like, I'm out of here,
Yeah.
They turn into subversives. They should maybe switch their party to independent or something. I don't know. I love principled people, and sometimes principled people get at real odds with each other.
Even principled people, though, got to learn to take the base hit, right? It can't be the home run. You can't do a home run in a group that big. It's just not possible. You can't do it in the state group where it's 100 plus people, let alone where it's 435 people. You got to learn to take the base hits and just keep on fighting, right? Keep on working.
So
if you become such an exclusionist, such an antagonist,
yeah,
you're not going to draw anybody to your side to get anything done after that.
yeah. Since you brought up Rand, I do want to say Ron Paul, the libertarian, and you could argue that he wasn't effective in the legislature, but he was effective in articulating certain points that really needed to be articulated. I don't think Trump would be saying end the Fed if that hadn't been one of Ron Paul's willingness to point out all of the atrocities and problems that we have because of a Federal Reserve and a currency that's lost 99% of its value and all of these things. So so you take Ron Paul out of the mix and the whole body shifts a little bit to the left. And so
They have their purpose.
they have their purpose, yeah. And you never got the feeling with Ron Paul that he was anything but like well intended for America, that he loved the country, and with some of them you kind of get the feeling maybe it's more about them and their pride, their ego, and I think that's a real key, because you can kind of tell when someone is like pumping their own reputation,
Own chests.
yeah.
Well, two more subjects, and then we can call this quits. One is, let's discuss fraud, and then let's discuss Celeste directly. J.D. Vance has been put in charge of the fraud section of this country. There's a ton of it going on. You're going to hopefully maybe hit some committees that are overseeing some of that if you get into the office and get onto those committees. We've seen all the fraud that Nick Shirley's put out there in the Minnesota area, and as well as California. It's coming out all the place in Ohio now. I'm sure Utah's got plenty of it too. What's your opinion on all this fraud, and how do we get the legislator to get control of that? Because, Doge tried rooting some of it out, but didn't expose near what a simple, I don't know how old Nick is, 23, 24-year-old kid is exposed.
Yeah. Was it, I think it was Alexander Solzhenitsyn says, one person telling the truth can bring down a tyranny. And I was talking to the college Republicans, and I said that. I said, if you don't believe me, just look at Nick Shirley, because it really is. It's like being willing to tell the truth. And sometimes it's at your own peril and jeopardy. And Nick's a good example of that too. But let me tell you just a little bit of it. The course that I got here with, it was watching the BLM come into Blanding and do their raids, and it was Obama took office, and and Eric Holder was the Attorney General, and it was vicious, and it was ugly, and it was politically motivated, and it was trying to accomplish one thing under the auspice of another. I was on the uranium task force, which was trying to forestall a moratorium on uranium that Obama was proposing for the Arizona Strip. Going to these meetings, and I'm sitting at lunch with a group of guys just like you and I sitting here, and they said, well, we're not going to be coming anymore because we sold our company. And it's like, sold your company? Yeah, sold our company to Russia, and Hillary Clinton brokered the deal. It was Uranium One. It was the executives. And I'm just like, no way. It's like, tell me more about it. It's like, oh, it's pretty straightforward. They bought us out. But then you find out that Bill Clinton, former president, is flying around the world with Frank Justra, Canadian financier, buying up all of the uranium in Kazakhstan, Australia, and South Africa, because Vladimir Putin wants to corner the uranium market. And then Justra makes $1 billion profit on this and donates $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. And then I'm watching this roll out. I don't know all the backstory. I don't know what's going on. I'm just seeing what I'm seeing. And then they roll in with we're designating a national monument over Bears Ears, and we're doing it because all of you people in Blanding are horrible, racist, looting graves, which is not true. It's not happening. So then you take a stand against that, and you end up getting prosecuted, going to jail, getting a mugshot, all these things. And if I was wrong, if I was an ATV activist, it'd be one thing. I've never really owned an ATV, not an ATV activist. I'm a anti-corruption person. It's like, hey, you can't destroy people's lives under the auspice when you're the one that's doing these horrible things. So when we talk about fraud, to me, I fight against the machine. I've seen the machine. I know how it works, and not in the abstract. Not that other people have their own experiences, but I'm a CPA in Blanding. I was audited after that, after I was prosecuted, audited up one side and down the other. 3-year full income audit, partnership, corporation, personal return. That's the maximum you can do to a person. And I came through it very well, but months. In fact, when the auditor came, she said, well, I don't want to disrupt your operation too much. So could I come on March 15th? Well, that's the corporate deadline. I said, March 15th? No, you can't come on March 15th. And she kind of protested, and finally I said, okay, you come March 15th. So it's like, oh, I'll just accommodate you. Sorry, this is a little bit personal. And then we kind of wrap up, and she's kind of wrapping up the audit. She says, unfortunately, I've got to come back. Would April 15th work for you? It's like, are you serious? It's like, this is
not know what date that is.
Of course she knows what date that is. Anyway, so I go through that. Long story short, Jason Chaffetz calls and asks if I'll be on a task force for the weaponization of the IRS. Because at the same time, the IRS comes out, Lois Lerner comes out and admits that they have a program of conducting financially ruinous audits on conservative nonprofits, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they're conservative nonprofits. So you get the weaponization, you get this stuff going on. I see the weaponization of the BLM. I get prosecuted. I see the weaponization and the corruption in the Department of Justice and the thumbs on the scale, the judges that are recusing because they're in bed with the environmentalist groups that are, it's like, this is, so when I say that I'm fighting against the machine, I think I understand the machine that I'm fighting against, even if people around me don't understand and I can't articulate it, because you can't when you're, in the middle of lawsuits and all those things. But that's kind of where I come from, is not in the abstract, but my own observations. And so saying, just because someone gets accused of something from the the federal government, if it's during a political season, it's like, this is a hit job. I've seen it happen over and over. So bringing that up to the fraud, waste, and abuse, and Vice President Vance being in charge of that, I know he understands too that he's dealing with really bad people and a very deep state that is going to protect themselves. They know that he's going to be here for a while, then he'll be gone, and so they're just they just go into they're hiding places in the corners and
roaches in the cracks.
Yeah, so hopefully JD Vance will be very aggressive.
Well, it comes down to you guys figuring that out too, because we just went through 2 massive shutdowns, the longest lasting ones ever, and the biggest part of the U.S. budget is Medicare, Medicaid, and all these entitlement programs. By far the biggest. It supersedes our national security budget by like 6 times, is how big the entitlement programs are. And that's where all the abuse is. That's where all the fraud is. That's where all the waste is in those programs. All this stuff that Nick Shirley's come up with, it's all Medicare billing.
Entitlement programs.
It's entitlement programs. And people try to separate the fraud from the entitlement program, but the entitlement program is the problem. It's the biggest part of the budget. It's by far, bar none. It's where all the money goes to. There's billions of dollars in the entitlement programs. And it's like the biggest cuss word in Washington, because nobody, not a politician up there, wants to touch Medicare, Medicaid, food stamps. Social Security is a byword. And Social Security is about bankrupt. It's got a couple of years left before it's as negative. Medicare's out of control, Medicaid's out of control. The food stamps is obscene, and people are like, oh, it's not obscene. Well, it's not just all the money going to the illegals, but I know legitimate people getting food stamps, and they're getting $1,500, $2,000 a month on their EBITDA cards, and I don't spend that much money on food.
Not even close.
Not even close. I'm like, what are you getting $2,000 for? And my wife's had it. I've had it. People literally come up to you and say, I'll give you 50 cents on the dollar for food if you give me the cash, right? And they're selling it because they can't spend it. They can't buy enough food to spend it. And they need the cash. And so they'll go buy $500 worth of food for you on their card, and you give them $250 for it. And who's not going to do it? There's a massive amount of fraud there.
Total fraud. Yeah.
Someone's got to tackle that at some point in history, right? And how do politicians tackle that? How?
Again, I think it's it's first thing is you got to be honest. Live not by lies. That's another Schultz and Eats thing. It's like live not by lies. This is just like we're not gonna go along with this program, but it's dangerous. Again, like I say, as soon as you start talking about getting rid of an entitlement program, now you got a target on your back. I mean, sometimes a literal target. Like they will take you out if you keep talking the way you're talking. So, but we can't be fearful of that. It's like I'm not fearful of it. It's like let's
have the conversation.
Let's have the conversation. And I mean, I've got a reputation of doing that in Utah. People say, well, you can't look at voter lists. It's like, well, I mean, maybe we better take a look at those voter lists or whatever it is. And we've got some people, we've got some political will finally in the House, in the Senate, in the executive branch to actually do it. So I think if we're ever going to do it, now is the time.
Now's the time, which is
really
why I'm asking the question, because if you get in there, you're already a bulldog. You've already proven yourself to be a bulldog.
Hopefully. Thank you.
But
yeah, hopefully people see that.
Freshmen congressmen also do not have a mass amount of power in there. You got to go in there and start throwing some weight around. And it's hard for a freshman to go and do that. But
yeah, so I am a freshman, but I'm not a freshman in the sense of experience in government at different
you're
levels.
freshmen and how they're going to treat you.
Yeah. But honestly, being a county commissioner, I think is probably more valuable even than being a legislator. But being a legislator is valuable. Having gone through what I went through, the Trump, pardon and different things like that, which is all interesting. But when you put it all together, I think I will come into the House with. I already have some really good friends and some really good allies and people that I look up to that I think are also change agents. They're ones that are saying we love America and we're going to make the differences. And I think Trump is the same. I think I fit into that mold. And the last thing I want to do is go back there and get put in a corner. I don't want to do that. So
you start bucking the system. That's what they try to do.
Yeah, if you do it without regard for the power structure and without respecting the people that have invested in what they have there, then I think you deserve to get. If you're going to challenge it, it's
taken off the committees and put in the corner.
Yeah, so you don't go in there with that full on assault. You go in there with make some friends. I think you can make some friends right now, and it's a beautiful thing. In a way, the 435, I've always seen that as just like, well, that's impossible. That'd be like my definition of hell is going to Washington D.C. one of 435. But as I've gotten to know some of the good people that I've been in their offices, Mary Miller and Eli Crane, Abe Hamadeh, Harriet Hageman, what I see there is good Americans. They're willing to put their whole
the whole life on the line.
Life, fortune, and sacred honors is on the line, and
it's the type of people we need out there, though. As well.
Yeah, there's
not willing to back down.
Oh, and what I was going to say is even so then you get a little core group of people that want to affect something, and they actually can because they know what they're talking about on this more of a micro issue when the whole body might be doing some other big things. They're affecting things on a smaller level. So I believe that I can be effective in DC.
Well, let's go to Celeste then. Her voting record. What are a few things that she did that you would have done completely differently, policy-wise?
I don't like her vote on the FISA bill to reauthorize the warrantless searches. There was an amendment on the floor on the House floor to remove that. It passed overwhelmingly, but she voted against that, and I thought that was maybe it pleased Mike Johnson, but her colleagues, many of them voted for the amendment, and she should have. Same thing with the kill switch on the cars, and she'll say, "I didn't vote for a kill switch on a car." They said that they weren't going to ever put in that physical kill switch. But it's like, well, then vote for the amendment that says they can never put in a kill switch on the vehicles. I think she should have voted for that. She's voted to fund all of the money to Ukraine and different things that, again, if I'm looking at the Freedom Caucus and like the Eli Cranes, they're almost like on opposite sides across the board. And there's other good people that voted the same as Celeste, but for the most part, I guess those are some of the big ones.
Well, the car is a pretty big one because I don't need Big Brother in my car.
No, we don't. We don't want the surveillance. We don't want the warrantless surveillance, and not that we don't have it in spades, but there's nothing
Why
wrong
are we
with
thinking of voting for that? Why would we want to put more government, more powerful? We already get it from our cell phones, half times listening to us.
Yeah, and to me, it's like that's an opportunity to demonstrate. Well, she voted the other one, the money that slush fund that the House uses to pay off people that are accusing of sexual crimes against House members. She voted to keep that private. That was a bad
What
vote.
happened to full disclosure?
Yeah, it's like, and again, most of them are voting in favor of disclosing it, and there'll be reasons why. Celeste is a good person. She's a good attorney. She was a good staffer for Chris Stewart. I worked with her at the UAC, with the Utah Association of Counties. She knows her public lands law. But as I look at Celeste, it looks to me like she has become part of the machine against which we are raging. It's like, and I don't think the representative, I don't think the member of the House should be part of that machine. You might have staff that understands the lobby effort and the legalities and the beltway mentality, but in my estimation, that's not what you want as your representative. So she's kind of part of the machine. I think I'm still fighting against that machine.
Well, those are the main policy differences, and that's what we're trying to fight against here. We're not attacking Celeste. We're not going against the people. But we do want definitive policy differences, and we want to be able to bring the state of Utah more conservative, not less conservative, particularly with the donut hole that we have now. We need even more conservatives going back there because we're going to have to override what's going to be happening in the middle of our state.
Yeah.
And so we can't have the risk of having this conformity.
Yeah. I will say, if you take the upper Colorado River Basin and you put it over the state of Utah, it almost matches exactly CD3. So those issues are really important to me. And again, we come at it, they're important to Celeste too, but we come at it from different angles. I come at it from, insisting that the state legislature fill their jurisdictional role and that the federal government stay in their lane. Celeste seems to come at it more from we have these legal cases and we have to defer to these things. I'm less willing to go and really challenge those things. It fits me really well when we talk about the federal jurisdiction, the water, the minerals, the recreation, the lake levels that I've been fighting on Lake Powell for
water's going to
years.
be a big thing nowadays. And
so major.
the vast majority of your area is all our farmers and ranchery.
Yeah, you got
all those alfalfa fields, all the cattle that's out there, and
Flaming Gorge and Lake Powell and the lake levels. We talked a little bit about that. So
you're going to be defending them all. I mean, they're going to try to pull back water. I mean, they look at the water usage in Utah, and what the populace actually uses is maybe 20%, 23%, I think is the number of overall, with all the lawns, all the grass, all the water consumption, the whole state. It's still, the populace only uses about 23% of the water in the state of Utah. 78% of it, or or so of that is our ranchers and farmers. It's the fields and stuff that we use, but we can't. And that's where everybody's trying to attack, is trying to force them to do less.
Well, and that's of the captured water, but we only capture between 4 and 8% of the water that falls. Not that we want to capture all of it. It's like it's what keeps everything green, but infrastructure would go a long ways to solving that problem. So we say, well, farms are using 80% of the water. Well, they're using 80% of the 7% that we capture. But with more infrastructure, we could capture more. We could have more pipelines. And why don't we do it? It's because it crosses federal land. It's on federal. They won't let us do it.
First question asked is federal land problem.
Yeah, the healthy forests produce way more water, 20% more water than unhealthy forests. Yeah, we have very unhealthy forests. Why? Because it's federal, and they won't let us go on there. So,
and then we have all the fire problems here because they won't let us get in there and clean out the forest.
Yeah, you take away logging and grazing, and then you wonder why the forests are burning. It's like, well, because we're not using them, and this isn't. Then they pay people to come in and thin the forests, and pay people to come in with their goats to eat the undergrowth. It's like, well, that's logging and grazing. That would take care of those problems. That makes for a healthy. Anyways, really poor policy decisions made by people who.
It's like we're following California purposely. I mean, they just have to
100% purposely. Yeah.
Well, we didn't learn from what they're doing out there.
Yeah.
They're horrible land management. They're horrible water management, because right before the fire, they let all the water out. They emptied their reservoirs almost. What?
Yeah. We've got.
Why are we doing that?
We got to call it what it is. We got to call the environmentalists what they are. We can't pretend that they're, working for our interests, because they're subverting the interest, the immigration thing, all the things that we've talked about. I think that's kind of underpinning who I am and what I stand for. So,
well, anything else you wanted to mention about differences between you and Celeste? There's those the main ones.
I mean, I'm born and raised in Utah and in this district, 5 generations in this district. I've got 5 kids, 20 grandkids. Most of them live in this district. Where, whatever happens here is really personal to me, because it affects so many people that I care about. Celeste, born and raised in Nevada, and I think she has a really valuable background with cattle and the land fights in Nevada. But it's different, I think, when you're born and raised and have your business in the district. And I do have a business. I've made payroll for 40 years, that I have to pay my employees, I have to figure out how to do all of that. And so if there's anything, I guess, that I hope people understand about me is that my politics are not in the abstract. Everything that I do is based on my own experience, my own observations, and seeing how bad policy can really, damage families and people.
Well, we're getting really close. June 23rd is the primary.
Yeah, ballots drop on June 2nd or 3rd.
Or 3rd it'd be in your mailboxes, so it's coming up quick, very quick. Got a month left, so get out and vote. Whatever area you are in Utah, I mean, our preferred candidates are obviously Phil Lyman, Carrie Ann Lisby, Mike Kennedy. That's the people we want in office. If you're in the Davis County area, we want Braden Hess in there. We have a lot of other people coming onto the show. We got Fia coming in next week, coming in from Salt Lake County, so he'll be a good conversation next week. So a lot of people coming up on the podcast. Any last things that you want your voters to know about? Well,
thanks, Uriah. Thanks for what you're doing. I know this takes time and effort and money to do what you're doing, and I know the reason why you do it, and I'm very, very grateful. And to me, it is like the epitome of America is being willing to have those discussions, whether people like it or not. You get out,
stick my neck out there, and
there you go. So yeah, so thank you so much.
And go through the comment section. Oh, that one wasn't very good.
I have to turn my notifications off every once in a while.
I imagine what your comment section says.
Yeah.
I look at mine, I'm like, okay.
I mean, I get lots of positive, probably more positive than negative, but some days it's just like, I just don't.
I look at them like, what? Where'd that one come from? I didn't say anything like that.
Yeah, people are.
It's just throwing stuff out there.
It's a blood sport.
Oh, well, just so everybody knows, because the biggest thing going on in my comment section right now is what's going on down in Salt Lake County with Mike Carey and the 8 people that he supposedly kicked out of the party. So we've got a couple podcasts coming up where we're going to invite those individuals on to kind of discuss how that went down. But I'm not supporting anybody one way or the other in that fight, and for some reason everybody thinks we are. But
Well, I am. I'm on the side of the grade 8, and it's tacky when a party can't handle a bit of dissension.
We
but-
were at the convention, and we had an open booth at the convention, right? Mike Carey came in, and then
I've seen it. Yeah.
yeah, we had guys from the Utah County Republican Party. We had Davis County in there. We had the sheriff in there. We had a lot of people in there. And for some reason, that thing just blew up. I'm like, I had no idea what was going on. Zero idea what was going on until
You got black.
until like 3 days. Like he just started talking about it in the booth. I'm like, what's going on down there? And we're just grinning because we have no idea what he's talking about. Right? I started asking a question about what's going on there, and like 3 days later, our comments section just goes on fire. I'm like, what is going on
That's
in Utah
interesting.
County?
Yeah, it's interesting.
So I called up
Salt Lake County.
Salt Lake County. I'm like, so I called Mike Clara up. I'm like, so you're unbiased. Tell me what's going on. We were on the phone for like 45 minutes until like, oh, I got it now. So I don't want to be swayed from one side or the other. Just tell me what's going on down there.
Isn't Michael is such a
He's so just,
the voice of reason is like so nice. to
he
have
wasn't
somebody like that.
supporting either side. He
Right.
said, look, Mike Carey's abusing power, but the 8 had it coming for him because what they were saying. So he says, they're both in the wrong and they're both making it worse. I'm like, I can totally see that.
There's a better way to handle it.
There's a better way to handle it.
Iron fist, It's like, but that's my observation.
But just so everybody knows, we've got a group of them coming in. We'll discuss it.
Good.
We're gonna do it after the primary though, because we got too many people want to get in before the primary. But we'll discuss it after
Well,
the primary.
thanks for putting me in, and thanks for doing the event tonight up here.
Yeah, we're doing it. So
It's going to be exciting.
all right, everybody, this is God and Country. Again, look down below for our merchandise, buy our t-shirts, support the channel, like, subscribe, and share, and we will see everybody on the next podcast.